All right. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. You hear the music. Feel the vibe. You know what's coming. Fun times ahead when you hear that. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Truthwire. I am one of your hosts, along with two co-hosts. One of them who's here right now with me, Matt Weinglass, from the Home Stuff. Matt.
What's going on? What's going on? Welcome back to us all, I suppose. This is a nice little gathering we're doing today. I like it. I like the topics. I'm excited about the show.
Yeah. It's interesting when you have good topics and you have good information that you want to talk about and good conversation that you need to be had. It doesn't make a difference where or when you are doing it. It's just the fact you get the chance to do it. And thank you everybody out there who's hanging out on YouTube, hanging out on Fee's Twitter, my Twitter. Matt, are you connected? Homeless Left YouTube. We got that rolling. I hope.
Yes, we got it connected. Good. Yes.
Rumble across the board. We're there. I believe we're even kicking it out with Kick. And I believe Rockfin is still. Is Rockfin even up? Is it still there or no? It's up. Even on the Rockfin that really don't pay too much attention to, but still kind of try to roll theirs when we can. They saved us when we were censored on YouTube. Been a lot of problems since. A lot of craziness. A lot of people leaving the platform. I don't know where it's at, but if you are one of the two people watching on Rockfin, thank you. Well, whoever's there, thank you very much, and thank you for all your support. And all the ways to help us to help the show out are down below. It's been an interesting year in 2025, talking about us and what we've been doing, finding our footing, trying to make our way. The news has been amazing. It's been crazy, the new Trump administration, Matt, but I still think there's better times and more times ahead for us and what we're doing here today. Give us any little quick updates on the Homeless Left. As far as what you've been experiencing over there really quickly before we get rolling. And hopefully our other co-hosts will be joining us.
Yeah, no, it's been quite a wild ride these last couple weeks. We actually made the determination we needed to step back and just take kind of a breather, like a week or two. And we actually made that determination right as Charlie Kirk was being assassinated. I literally made the determination. We're going to do one more show and we're going to pause. And then we saw the news that broke and we're like, oh my gosh, now we got to like look into this thing, do like, a big show on it, which we ended up doing. You guys can go back and check out our coverage. I was pretty happy about, our deep dive we did right away into it, knowing that I was going to stick to the breather we needed. But I want everyone to know, like, this is what we sign up for when we do this job. What we sign up for is the wear and tear and the constant beating we take from the censorship industrial complex, from the people trying to make us look like the ones causing the problem when we're the whole point. And the reason we do this work, Craig, you know this, Fee knows this, our audience knows this. The reason we do this work is because the mainstream isn't doing the work. In fact, they're doing the opposite. Their job is to protect power. Their job is to protect their donor class, their advertisers, and to make us look like we're all sitting in our grandma's basements, keyboard warriors, doing our own research when we're actually doing journalism. We're actually looking into things. We're asking the right questions. So again, when we decided we needed to take that break because of the wear and tear, and we need to reset every once in a while and then get back to it, this big thing went down. And so we covered it, still took a little time off. Here we are now. We're ready to jump back in. Homeless Stuff, we're going to be back on twice a week starting on Tuesday. But again, this is a great timing that we can have this conversation now. And yeah, I'm excited. Had a little bit of time to, just take that breath and also make sure everything was running smoothly. And we weren't getting, we had to make sure our YouTube was going well. We just got monetized, which is amazing because I didn't think that was even going to happen with the last channel being terminated, which was horrible, but we keep at it. Again, this is an ongoing battle. We're fighting this war. Sometimes we win a battle, sometimes we lose a battle, but we keep on fighting. And so we're happy to be back and again, ready for this awesome opportunity today.
Yep. Thank you so much, man, brother. We appreciate you jumping in. It's been interesting. I've been doing a lot of your show this whole year. And, obviously, I think I've made it kind of known to the audience out there that I've been dealing with some health issues and trying to get that straightened out. And I'm going to continue to do that. The Wednesday show on WBAI has been truly amazing. Being able to talk to New Yorkers, we get to call in. To me, that's what it's all about. So no matter what, I think, those in independent media who decide to stay in here despite maybe the censorship or the low numbers, and it's really a twisted world, right? Like, because, you see people with certain numbers and you're like, why do they have those numbers? We're having the same conversations over here, but we can't seem to get the traction. And we were saying it a little bit before they were saying it. Well, I mean, we're in a very controlled environment, but I think going back to what I was saying, anybody who really truly wants to do this, they'll find a way. They'll find a microphone. And despite through it all, 2025 for me has just been about keeping relevant, being relevant, before I kind of get out there like a lion in a cage and plow forward with actual news, like you're talking about with the fourth estate, what it's meant to be, hold power accountable, ask the questions that aren't asked in the mainstream, and keep pushing forward. So thank you once again to everybody out there. Thank you, Matt, for being here. Fee should be jumping in any second. Once she gets in, we'll get started. But maybe we can start rocking and rolling right off the bat. I asked some questions about this whole Charlie Kirk situation. And Matt, you can put some banner up there, but let me ask the first question really quickly to you. And then what we'll do is we'll go over some of the stuff we have, produce some evidence, and see what's going on. But who stands to gain from the death of Charlie Kirk, both individually as a person or as a group, state, function, i.e., who gains from the assassination of Charlie Kirk? Do you want to maybe tackle that? And it's great to see everybody out there again, too, as well. I saw what's his name was out there really quickly. Let me just say hi. Apple, it's always great to see you. Ruth, I got your lovely gift. Thank you so much. President Jafar, it's great to see you too as well. Everybody out there, thank you so much for the love. I was on Union of the Unwanted on Monday. I got a lot of hate there for talking about my opinions about Charlie Kirk. But it's great to see you. Who stands to gain from the assassination of Charlie Kirk?
Yeah, so,
tackle that, Matt.
And that's the right question to start with. Who stands to gain?
Yeah.
100%. By far, leaps and bounds, Israel stands to gain, which includes the U.S.-Israel war machine. So everything about this leads to Israel having a little more cover to continue its genocide and continue its project of the greater Israel project, and keeping people in line, keeping people in their camps. So we'll break this down during the show here, Craig. But there is absolutely, as far as people being drawn right back into their little tents of their tribes and being told that the enemy is the enemy of the other color. The red versus blue thing is happening right here. We're seeing it more than ever now. But financially, just maneuvering on a chessboard, Israel is the number one benefit of this assassination.
Okay, I'm going to disagree right off the bat. And fam is here, ladies and gentlemen. FIORELLA, ISABEL. Great to see you. I love the setup. Tell Johnny I said what's up. But we're asking the question, and Matt, Jamie put it up again. But before I get into it, Matt says Israel stands to gain the most. Go ahead, put who gains the most from the assassination of Charlie Kirk? Before we talk about which individual, but who else, what group, you know what I'm saying, fam, do you think gains the most from the Charlie Kirk assassination?
Well, I think the U.S. government would actually gain the most, because people are divided, and they automatically, even though let's say that their theory that it was a trans person that killed Charlie Kirk, even if that's true, likely political leaning is liberal. So what they're trying to do is to really start a divide within the domestic of the United States. I'm open to everything, but I just haven't seen the evidence that Israel has the most to gain out of all of this, because the ones who have the most to gain are the more, I would say, domestic intelligence apparatus in the United States. And we see that through the implementation of the legislation that's happened since. In fact, Israel has gained more so from taking an opportunity to exploit the situation, just like the Christian fundamentalists, the right wings, and podcasters, the alternative mainstream media. Anytime you talk about Charlie Kirk, and anytime you have people like Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, the Gray Zone, all these people talking about it, they've gained a lot, actually. And, I think I'm also looking at this not just from a factual basis, but from the basis of social media and what it's become, and how different sectors are exploiting that, and how just because, for example, I hate Netanyahu and Israel doesn't mean that I'm just going to draw a conclusion based on that fact. And I think people went into this already saying it was Israel without any sort of evidence or even openness to it, or they went in saying it was a lefty liberal commie that did it without actually looking at things. So I think there's a lot of confirmation bias here, and that's the psychological aspect I'm also looking at. It's not in any way defending Israel at all, and if anyone knows me, that you know that. But a lot of the reactions that I've gotten from people is just calling me a Zionist just because I say I don't agree with that, or saying that I'm demonic, and it's a lot of these like very either right wing or just like lefties that trust only one article from one independent or whatever podcaster. And there is like literally no room for nuance. There's no room for disagreement. And everybody's getting the same information, and they just they take it as fact. And I think that within everything that's happened, the US has become more divided. We've seen attacks on our privacy, on our free speech, on so many fundamental rights that supposedly the United States has. And we've also seen a diversion towards about this whole thing with Charlie Kirk. And literally most of these people haven't talked about Palestine in terms of what Israel has been doing. It's distracted from pretty much everything. And it's made it about Charlie Kirk and the conspiracy of who killed him and who did this and who did that. And that's all these people are talking about. They're no longer talking about Gaza, and we're supposed to care because it's Charlie Kirk. And it's honestly surprised me how many people have fallen for this, which I think anything's possible. I've even entertained people saying that he isn't dead. Like I'm really open to a lot of things, but for me, it's very possible that Charlie Kirk was killed by somebody who didn't like him, because he wasn't a likable guy. He just wasn't. I mean, right now I'm in Florida.
It was feast or famine, right? You either loved him or hated him.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I think the people who supported him were grossly estimated, because even in Florida, which is, I would say, largely Republican, a lot of people didn't really know who he was. I've been here now for 3 weeks, and I've just asked like normies, like, hey, do you know who Charlie Kirk is? And they're like, no, I don't really know who that is, but I have an opinion on it. So it's interesting. Like, people are saying, oh, but he was so influential to the youth. And I'm like, yeah, to a degree, the Turning Point USA was in every campus, right? But at the same time, I think people were grossly exaggerating that, because a lot of people just didn't know. And a lot of people aren't even involved in politics to begin with. And the other thing I want to say is this actually serves, this theory that Israel did it is serving to reinforce the fact that there's a difference within the Republican Party mainstream, that we need to rely on supposed people like Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, and a bunch of these people that, turned on Israel, and they're saying that it was Israel. But they have recently done that, and Charlie Kirk gave even less pushback than figures like Tucker Carlson. And why would it just doesn't, it's not a logical thing to me that Israel would automatically be culpable of killing somebody that is less influential than other major figures. And I am not really seeing that correlation. So just to begin, that's what I'm gonna say.
Okay.
I would think really quickly, and Matt, I know you're jumping, you're ready to jump in there and give your opinion and throw it back. And I'm not gonna say too much, because I pretty much, FIORELLA just commented on a lot I agree with, right? I'm not one to say that I can't be convinced if evidence is brought in front of me that, hey, maybe it was. And by the way, I'd like to know that outlet that thinks that, a lot of people are repeating out there about, Israel killer Charlie Kirk. Where do they stand on 9/11 today? I'd like to know I want to know where they stand on that.
Story. Right? They believe the story. I mean, they got serious.
I think there's a lot more evidence. I believe 9/11 was an inside job. That's just my whole thing. And by the way, we'll have some information coming out on that on my Jubilee appearance. It looks like they're going to release that video. But yeah, I mean, look, you look at the end of the day, who stands to gain the most, right? It is definitely the U.S. government, the intelligence apparatus. If you believe the intelligence apparatus is there to divide and conquer, what I'm saying? And so many people in their little groups that they went to wanted it to be what they thought it was going to be. There's so many people wanted to be Israel right out of the gate. The first person I saw say it was Israel was Syrian girl. I mean, like almost right out of the gate.
Yeah.
And saying that Charlie Kirk was starting to turn. And once again, if you go back and you watch Charlie Kirk and you watch some of these interviews, it was a moderate dig at Israel. I think he was starting to read the room personally and understand that there was a lot of people on the populist right that were just done with just, not only saying that, Israel's actions were awful, but the fact that they were pointing out that we're funding it and they were bringing a lot of independents over. So I think he could read the room. But even in that Patrick Bet-David interview, he even says, I'm pro-Israel, by the way, and it was just a small dig. And then there's so many people in the Alex Jones group that wanted to blame communism, that they so badly wanted it to be a black, trans, woke Marxist, so much that they're even buying into this whole theory about this Discord information that's out there, right? Saying that he went and he texted his black trans boyfriend or whatever it was, you know what I'm saying? I mean, or his trans boyfriend, I don't know if it's necessarily black, but they wanted a trans person to be involved so badly that they're repeating that all the time so they can do that. So at the end of the day, without a doubt, it's the United States government that benefits the most. It's also can be called distraction gate, right? Like, is anybody even talking about, Ukraine, Russia out there? I mean, when we get to that segment today, something that came out of Donald Trump's mouth, and I don't know if he's playing 17D chess fam or whatever, but I mean, something just completely different than what he's been advocating for and what he's been pushing for. I mean, is the 24 hours over yet? Because that war hasn't ended. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's going on and nobody's talking about it. They're talking about Charlie Kirk. What does Israel really gain from this other than the theory of them sending a message of somebody getting out of line? Yeah, that's somebody who got out of line. He once had to get in line to get out of line. You know what I'm saying? So I think a lot of when you kind of put a light on that and you say, oh, it's Israel, a lot more people are going to say, holy cow, this guy, you know what I'm saying? He was whacked by Israel. Israel's running our government. There's now more legislation going out there to silence us that we can't speak back. It seems like this would have a negative effect against them. And that's why I think Netanyahu panicked, because he didn't want any pushback whatsoever. Like, their hands were so dirty. It's all over the place. There's a lot of Americans who are becoming frustrated with this war, becoming frustrated with us funding this war. This just seems to add more fuel on the fire and be another obstacle for Israel. So if they thought they had the most to gain by whacking this guy, you better look at the reality, what's going on. This is having a negative effect. This is now a problem for Israel when they're already so unpopular. So at the end of the day, I believe it definitely, the person or the group that had the most to gain. And also, we'll go into Erica Kirk, rabbit hole today, as an individually gaining financially, empire-wise, this woman. And Gabrielle Freedom, who, friend of the show, she called me first and says, is anybody looking at his wife? I mean, because she just felt something inside. And a lot of people saw, Erica Kirk crying, that there's like another individual with crazy ties. So, I mean, at the end of the day, United States government, deep state, gains the most, divide and conquer, legislation for the security state. It's not Israel. It's that. But also, it's what FIORELLA talked about, the possibility of an individual doing it, because Charlie Kirk did nothing but manufacture biases for the populist right's worst biases, right? I mean, he said it was okay to look at black
we have
pilot,
the tweets.
You know what I'm
we
saying?
We have all the tweets. We can show that. I mean,
I don't want to piss on the man's grave, but he was no fucking hero. And the fact that the day of remembrance is one thing, but how far is it going to go? Now they want to put this guy on a coin. I'm sorry, dude. At the end of the day, we have to remember who Charlie Kirk was. He advocated, he used his Bible to try to push for the advocation of genocide in Gaza. You know what I'm saying? The Judea and Samaria mentality. He aligned himself with Mike Huckabee. But, it's just a complete distraction and a complete divide. Did you know, and I'm going to finish up with this, Matt, that there was a Chicago Cub player who took off a day in the middle of a playoff hunt. If you don't know, playoffs start next week in baseball, to go attend Charlie Kirk's memorial. I mean, that's just beyond crazy, a professional sports player doing something like that. So you go ahead and take it away. I kind of agree with you on everybody. The United States government has the most to gain.
Okay, so let's start from the top here. So we have a timeline of a guy that I admit I wasn't paying too much attention to when the incident happened. And I explained earlier, this shook everyone up. This is something we all immediately just felt like we needed to look in right away. And so looking into it, the first thing we have to do as journalists, we have to understand first the difference between evidence versus proof. So that's off the bat. We saw in the first 24 hours just evidence after evidence after evidence that would be viable enough to bring to court. If you theoretically had an opportunity to bring Netanyahu and Israel to court, you'd have a string of evidence that you could hold them accountable and have to answer questions for. It doesn't mean we have proof. So I'm not sitting here saying there's proof that Israel 100% did it. That's what the judicial process would theoretically be for. Of course, we're never going to get that. But when we look at the red flags, which are correlated with evidence, we see a timeline that doesn't make it. To me, it says there's a problem when you have a guy who was hand selected to be this massive influencer. And like, I know you guys are saying you didn't see that influence. When I looked into it, I saw a massive influence from Charlie Kirk in a realm where we call the deep state, the establishment, whatever we want to call it, the U.S. government, the Israel-U.S. war machine, figures out how to utilize a guy that has this relationship with a younger generation that can be more effective than any politician can. It's like Obama times 1,000.
I would agree with
we have an opportunity of this guy engage with people on the ground, not just go to these college campuses, not just have these discussions and engage people, but he can influence policy. He can influence people that are holding office. He's a massive person that could give them a lot of fire, a lot of tools that you can't even do from inside Washington. So when we understand this, and I got this methodology comes from third party philosophy. Now, look, I'm going to tell you, I've been working closely with We the People. There's the leader of We the People. His name is Levi. Levi has showed us what type of operations are in place where you can steer an entire people into a system that they wouldn't sign up for on their own. So let's look at Charlie Kirk as one of the major influences of what Israel can get away with.
He's one of the biggest. Yeah, okay. He's one of the biggest.
One of the biggest. So when that biggest asset becomes a liability, you have to do something about that liability. So let me be very clear. We're not looking at Charlie Kirk as the biggest critic of Israel. You don't kill the biggest critic. You kill the biggest liability. But
why was he the biggest liability? What proves that I would say, and I would argue.
Now we're going to break that down.
I would argue that Marjorie Taylor Greene is a bigger liability than Charlie Kirk was.
No, not at all.
I would argue that in a heartbeat because she was out in front in Congress going, "We got to stop this."
So this is the Zionist control of our system, not just DC. The Zionist control of our system goes in. We know this. It goes into our media. It goes into Hollywood entertainment. It goes into our churches. We have to understand how Christianity itself has been captured by Zionism. We talk about Judeo-Christian philosophy. This is where you take a Bible way back in 1912, you reprint it, you take the Palestine map out of the Bible, and you put it into these churches. So you got somebody like Charlie Kirk. Now, look, we can go through the tweets. We can talk about all the horrible things he did, but I'm going to tell you something. When I look closer, I see somebody who used his Christianity as Judeo-Christian influence, which is Zionist influence, to push those values, quote unquote values, onto the people that he talked with. So that's where you get Charlie Kirk saying Palestine didn't exist, because it comes right out of this captured philosophy. That's what that was. But he also was for free speech. So you talk about give everybody a microphone and let's debate. So if you look at the timeline, there was a massive shift that occurred about a month before he was killed. That massive shift is when he started asking questions. Now, look, you can say these were very light questions. Okay, he still hated Hamas more than he hated Israel. But once he started asking about the ADL and their ability to control our Congress, when he started asking questions about Epstein and his connection to the Mossad, when he started asking questions about October 7th, clearly asking, Was there a stand-down order given by Netanyahu? He's asked these questions just weeks before he was murdered. Now, it's not just that he asked the questions. He started talking about what happened to him by asking those questions. The bullying, the threatening, being called anti-Semitic, being told that he's no longer a friend of Israel, money being told that you are no longer going to have these donations, a massive amount of donations being threatened to him. Now, he didn't fully control that bank account at Turning Points. So there's people coming in and out. There's millions of dollars missing. There's threats about if you have Tucker Carlson on your stage anymore, we're gonna pull another 2 million here. We're gonna pull millions here. I know there's that report from the Gray Zone about whether the 150 million checks out or not. That's one thing, but there's massively other ways that you can punish him financially. But I'm gonna go to this one quote, and this is very, very important. When he was talking with Megyn Kelly right before he was murdered, Charlie Kirk said, "I'm not able to say certain things," which is weird. He called it weird. I can't say anything about Israel. It's weird. So the question we ask is, why can't you? What does he mean by I can't? You have a microphone. You have millions and millions of people. What do you mean you can't? What are the consequences to doing that? He talked about his security team being in place. His security team was appointed by Israel. So you have to then question the people that are supposed to be protecting you. We have to look at this. The timeline. Now, look, this is probably the most important part, because when you guys start saying, well, how do we know all this right away? How do we know all this right away? Because we look at the timeline of September the 10th, and we look at Netanyahu tweeting out about Charlie Kirk's death. Now look, how does a guy who's engaged in 6 different wars, killing people, killing negotiators in Qatar, involved in an ongoing genocide, involved with all of these different attacks in Lebanon, in Yemen, in Syria, he has time to step aside, get out his Twitter account, and tweet all day about Charlie Kirk, all day. Now we have to ask ourselves, how did he have that information? How is he the first to report on his death?
Okay, but this is all right. Listen, I'm not arguing the fact that these things do exist and these things are not true. Of course they are. And I can't answer to, I'm not, looking at Netanyahu's schedule plan, and I can't say, how did he get the time? But, obviously the guy is definitely an opportunist, right? And I think he saw this coming on with people saying stuff right away. And he had people telling him, the AI was flagging people going, it was Israel, it was Israel, it was Israel. And he had to try to get out in front of it maybe. But that doesn't still, mean the fact that Israel did it. And let me just say 2 things real quick. And I want to ask Fee something. And I know you hold your thought, Matt, because I think you said a lot there and we have to kind of address it. First of all, it's not possible to be pro-Israel and pro-free speech. That's an oxymoron. Charlie Kirk tried to play that two-step, that both-siding. If you are pro-Israel, and you've been pro-Israel as long as he has, you are anti-free speech. If any country has an influence on us, on our speech, anti-BDS laws, influence in our Congress, it's, if there's any censorship going on, if any country is doing that, it is Israel. So you can't be both. It's impossible, right? But even despite with that going on and everything you say there, isn't there a possibility, and this is a question I need to ask, you're making all these assumptions it could be Israel. Could it be possible that Israel and the United States worked together in conjunction and said, okay, let's take care of this together? Has anybody kind of crossed that path that both the deep state and Israel did this together? And Fam, I'll let you tackle that
obviously,
first.
Obviously the U.S. government is part of the cover-up. If we're talking about a cover-up, I'm saying that Israel is the one.
Were they part of the planning?
Israel's the one.
Could they have done it together? Could they have stepped together and said, let's do this for both our benefits together?
Look, this is just like Epstein. Watch Kash Patel. Watch the way Kash Patel talks about Epstein. Watch the way he talks about Tyler Robinson, and the case is closed. He has the exact same body language, the exact same sweat coming off of his forehead, the exact same cross-eyed look into the camera. He looks like a complete goof as he's trying to tell us, we looked into it and there's nothing to see here. Case closed. This is instructions, top-down instructions to protect his people, his handlers, which are directly related to the Mossad, directly related to Israel. So, of course, Craig, they are working together. They are part of the cover-up. The FBI is telling you that this text messages between Tyler Robinson and his lover. Oh, hi, lover. Hi, I just wanted to confess everything to you, but please, whatever you do, don't tell this to the FBI because Kash Patel just got assigned and he's amazing and he's really good at figuring shit out.
Yeah. Anna Ringwald's in there.
That you are meant to believe.
Yeah. Friendly Brilliant wrote books on the combination of the CIA and the Mossad. Fam, jump in there. Thank you, Friendly Brilliant. And I got a copy of her book for you. But it's true, fam. They're attached at the hip, right? The Pentagon, the Mossad has access to the Pentagon. They're running the Pentagon, according to a lot of people who go on Judge Nappa's show. Could it be possible that the deep state and the CIA with the Mossad all work together on this? And they said this will benefit us all? Go ahead, fam.
I mean, I think it's possible, but I don't really see the markers of Israel. Like what we've been told is that Charlie Kirk was such a threat and that he was coming around in the last month. We're talking about 2 years into this genocide. We're talking about late 2025. It's almost October. And you're telling me that a month ago, he decided to come around because he had a hallelujah moment, because he was quote unquote scared. But he wasn't that, like, he might have been afraid of his funds drying out because a large portion of his followers are feel that way about Arabs, about the Middle East, about Hamas, so he has to understand that a large portion of the other side of his followers were already questioning Israel, mainly because Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and a lot of the alt-right figures that have gone quote unquote independent, even though Candace still promotes Oracle on her YouTube, by the way. So in fact, I think you're right, Pasta. That was just him reading the room and saying, all right, well, clearly I need to address something with Israel, because what you have to look at is nuance. There's no nuance in this. Immediately after, it was Israel did it, or it was this lefty commie that did it. There was no nuance. So the mainstream argument was that it was a lefty commie that did it. But the alternative mainstream media argument that was not questioned at all, so people went into this already saying it was Israel and confirming their bias. They already went into it with a decision that it was Israel and worked backwards from that. So it was more of an inductive reasoning aspect. And when I'm looking at this as someone that really, really closely follows trials, cases, like, true crime, that sort of thing, this wouldn't hold up in court. You can't just say because Israel is to blame, is embedded in the U.S. government, because Israel, we don't like them, and because they've assassinated people before, it means that they likely killed Charlie Kirk. Like you can't do that. That's not going to hold up anywhere whatsoever in court.
But the other thing you can't do is you can't let these leads get thrown aside. You can't as Cash.
Yeah, you can't, but you have to look at everything, and you're
but they're not looking at everything.
Correlation is not causation, though. Like, just because things seem to correlate doesn't mean that they're directly related. I mean, that's like, if you're looking at this objectively, you're not going to make a decision and say it was Israel, or it wasn't Israel, or it was the FBI, or it wasn't. Even it is a possibility that it was this idiot that was caught. Like, all of these are possibilities. My issue is that people are so determined that it was Israel, and they're making a huge, huge profit off of it. So many people are benefiting from this. And that makes it impossible for you to decide who it was, because we're not getting any factual evidence here. Like, even the fact of how he was shot, right? They're saying, oh, it's possible that he didn't have an exit wound. Actually, it is possible. It's not likely if it was a high caliber weapon, but it is possible if they were far away, given the weapon type and given the weapon strength, that there wasn't an exit wound. All these things are possible, but people are deciding what's possible and what's not possible based on how they feel about Israel, about Charlie Kirk, and about XYZ. So they're not going at this objectively. And we're going to social media and X and Twitter to find a lot of these these situations being spewed out as facts when they're in fact opinions. Every single thing that I've seen has been an opinion. Now, are we going to get the true facts from the mainstream media? Not necessarily. Do we ever get that? This is why I understand why people are questioning everything, because it is very suspect that a random, liberal would be on the roof and would be allowed to shoot Charlie Kirk. But the right believed that Donald Trump got shot and that he was a threat because he was a threat to the deep state and the CIA. This has the same type of mentality on that. But in reality, Charlie Kirk was controlled opposition. Like, much of the people saying that it was Israel are controlled opposition. They are there to basically say Donald Trump is a victim of Israel. In fact, that's what was said by the Gray Zone on pretty much every podcast, that Donald Trump is a victim of Israel, that he simply can't act against Israel, and that Charlie Kirk was also a victim of Israel. Yeah. And therefore that means that, our government really isn't at fault, that we're just victims of Israel. Our government funds Israel. Our government is tied to Israel. So if you think that we're just victims of Israel and that this can be fixed perhaps by having more people speak out against it that are already within the Trump influence. Charlie Kirk was on a texting basis with the Trump administration. Charlie Kirk was somebody that was texting multiple high-level people within the Trump administration. That's why Netanyahu knew who he was. And he did the same thing that everybody else was doing, that every single U.S. official was doing, whether it was Donald Trump, whether it was J.D. Vance, whether it was all these people. They went out and gave eulogies to Charlie Kirk, not because they felt guilty, but because they literally loved him. He was one of them. He was absolutely one of them. And you're not going to tell me that a month before he died, with some mild pushback, that means that he was somehow a threat. And again, this is overly exaggerated in terms of his influence on that scale. Tucker Carlson has 16.5 million followers on Twitter. I know that's not it alone. He had 6. Now he has 6. Okay. A lot of people didn't know who he was. Sure, he was influential. No one's denying that he was influential. But to say that a mild criticism of Israel that has become, by the way, it's become more popular and more monetarily beneficial to criticize Israel than to not criticize Israel. And if I'm a podcaster that has a PR person, a marketing person, a whole team behind me, and what I say and what I do, because if you think he doesn't, you're absolutely naive to think he doesn't have people around him telling him how to conduct and telling him what to say. I'm going to go where the wind is blowing. And it's become popular. People are making a lot of money from the Free Palestine stuff even. This is why all of this has been exploited for all of these people to make a lot of money, to gain a ton of followers, to continuously talk about this and completely divert the attention away from Palestine. What is Megyn Kelly doing? What are all these people doing? They're talking about Charlie Kirk and how Charlie Kirk was killed and he's a victim and how they're making a martyr out of him. And by the way, me just saying, God, it's weird that he was killed by somebody with a gun when he advocated so fervently in favor of guns. It's crazy. Or when I said something like, I don't think we should have a memorial holiday for somebody that was a podcaster. For me, for you, for anybody, like they don't deserve that. Like, I understand MLK. I understand people that led to actual change in the world for good. But we're talking about making a guy who really profited off hate and division. That's what he made money off. Let's be honest here. He called it free speech, but really we know where his funding came from, largely from the neocons. And when you talk about Christian fundamentalism, that is so tied to Zionism that it's the same thing. It's a supremacist ideology. And he promoted that. He promoted this idea of let's debate. But it was definitely from a standpoint of I'm right and I'm going to mock what you're doing. He wasn't somebody that really tried to bring people together. He tried to divide people. So it is very possible that somebody didn't like him and actually did kill him. I don't think that's beyond the realm of possibility. But I don't buy the mainstream media, like what Matt said. I don't like the text messages, all of that. Same thing with the Luigi Mangione case. It just seems like ridiculous to me. So I'm not saying that it was, just necessarily what we're being told. But The fact that people are so convinced that it had to be Israel, that Charlie Kirk was changing and he was evolving within 1 month, and that it had absolutely nothing to do with monetary reasons, that it had absolutely nothing to do with him just reading the room, and that he's well connected to the Trump administration, which is why they literally had a 60,000 plus people memorial for him. And mild criticism of that memorial is I got told like I was a Zionist and then that I'm part of Mossad and all of these things, and like people who didn't even know who he was are crying. I mean, did we need to see all of these tweets saying, oh my gosh, you know, no matter if you disagree with Charlie Kirk, he shouldn't have been killed? Okay, no, I didn't. I'm like, is that necessary? Okay, but you have all the right to say it, right? You have the right to say it. But whenever people decided, some people on the left said, oh, well, he got what he deserved, it was karmic justice, these people got so riled up that they're pushing for legislation to censor people who simply don't agree with their view of Charlie Kirk. And that's what's happened here. We've become so divided of that. Yeah. So for me, what I'm seeing here is that all of what I just mentioned has served the purpose to divide us and completely ignore the surveillance state that is being pushed upon us. Elon Musk is bringing in grok to the U.S. government. This is what's happening. Who did Elon Musk meet with on Charlie Kirk's funeral? Trump. All these people are just gonna keep in the big secret that, you know, one of them killed Charlie Kirk. It's just that he was one of them, dude. He was absolutely one of them. And in a small little snippet of criticism does not make him a martyr that was killed by Israel because he was a threat and he was going to come in and revamp everything. I guarantee you, and there's no way to prove this, but if Charlie Kirk were alive today, he would be spewing anti-Hamas rhetoric. He would still be spewing all of the views that he had with some mild criticism of Israel. And he would be exploiting that criticism of Israel because that's become popular to do now in the alternative mainstream media.
Let me just say this. I'm going to hand it off to Matt. We got to get into the rest of the segment. This one question is so deep and there's so many things to talk about. But I will say this much. I didn't hear about Charlie Kirk turning the page until after he died. Like after he died, that's when we heard, oh my God, Charlie Kirk was turning. And I was like, really, dude? Where? Because he had some mild criticisms, things that were said for quite some time. And like I said, when I heard those things, I thought Charlie Kirk was just reading the room. And my biggest fear is the one that FIORELLA just pointed out. Now everybody, especially the Trumpers, the ones who kind of like paralleled the Obama people who made every excuse in the book for this guy. You can't do that to power. You can only do so much. It's the same kind of rhetoric we heard when the people were sticking up for Robert Kennedy and Tulsi Gabbard during their confirmation hearings when they were saying stuff. Well, they got to say that stuff. They got to play ball. My fear is that they'll now Donald Trump's a victim of Israel. He can't do anything. Yeah. Look what they did to Charlie Kirk, right? They've already tried to whack him before he got lucky. Look what they did to Kirk. He can't do anything. He has to play ball and do what Israel says. That is my biggest fear, and that biggest fear is coming to fruition. Matt, go ahead and take a little time, and then we'll kind of get into these videos so we can show some of the scuttlebutt, the noise, and the information going around Charlie Kirk's death that hasn't slowed down whatsoever. Go ahead, Matt.
So I wholeheartedly disagree with the assessment that when we talk about Israel's control and capture of our government, of our media, of our entertainment industry, of our churches, of the banking system, that we're saying that we're alleviating some sort of blame and calling Trump a victim or any politician a victim. No, we're not. We're not calling anybody a victim. And I say we because I don't see that verbiage being used. I understand that you can assess it that way because when you say, hey, the person pulling the strings or the people pulling the strings are bigger than the politicians that we elect here or that are selected here. By the way, who selects our politicians? We look into this stuff. So, but well before Charlie Kirk's assassination, we already were critical of this. We already try and hold people like RFK Jr. accountable and say, how can you tweet this garbage out on October 8th? About October. How do you do this? Now, look, are you saying that by suggesting that RFK Jr. there's some blackmail on him and there's a reason that he has to go and promote Netanyahu gets a blank check from us on day one after October 7th and unprovoked attack? And I'm just using him as an example because if you were to say that we were giving him a free pass because we were insinuating that he was the word you're saying, Fee, is victim. We're not saying victim. We're saying this. We're trying to look into how the puppeteers get away with what they get away with, looking at how money works, looking at how AIPAC buys off every politician and makes them do stuff that they wouldn't be doing. If you put America first, why is Israel first? So these are the questions we've been asking the entire time. So no, I don't agree that the gray zone is putting cover for Trump and calling him a victim. We're saying that these people are weak when they get into office. They're absolutely weak. They are acting out of fear. Now look, victim or no victim, what we're trying to understand is who is controlling this whole entire thing. So we look at, again, the first question that Craig put out there was, who's benefiting from this? And clearly when you see the memorial, and you're right about this, if you look at this memorial, look at this extravaganza for the RNC, for the war machine. You got people like Stephen Miller getting up during this. I'm not even gonna call it a memorial. It was a
MAGA rally.
Yeah. So this was something to promote more war, more occupation, more bombardment of the Middle East, and you get the Christian Judeo mythology, you get it back in place. And you got people like Ben Shapiro saying, I'm taking over the mic. Well, his wife's going to be CEO. So what? That's just on paper. Ben Shapiro wants to go around and start talking to campuses. You guys know Ben Shapiro's stance on Christianity. He doesn't have, he says Jesus wasn't a prophet at all. F that guy. He said that on Rogan. You guys can go back and look at that tape. The point is, you got to get people back in line with the Judeo-Christian philosophy. It's a Zionist philosophy. And you do that by putting the wife up on stage and having her play cover and say, I forgive the sole shooter. So if any of us fall for this, just please, you guys have to step back and look at this. You have the wife saying, I forgive this person. The Christian in me is forgiving this person. Now you've set up this environment where if Tyler Robinson ever gets to trial, although he might get an overwhelming sensation of killing himself beforehand, that might happen. But if, let's say, that doesn't happen, by the small chance he gets into trial, now you have a jury being selected that's going to go in saying, oh, the widow is already forgiven this guy. But we have zero evidence of Tyler Robinson being the guy that pulled the trigger. All you have is footage of him on a roof associating him with being there. There is absolutely no evidence of him doing this. And so the fact that FBI can close this case without any bringing in people for questioning, his Charlie Kirk security team, they confiscated the cameras, they bulldozered over the crime scene. There's a shot of a trap door that we saw from the aerial view. We have all these different people doing gestures in the crowd. So you're shutting down this case when the security team, again, appointed by Israel, direct communication with Netanyahu. This would explain how Netanyahu was first to know about this. This is evidence, Fee. This is evidence. It's not proof. It's evidence. How can Netanyahu be the first to tweet out about this? How can a Jerusalem news outlet be first to report on his death over any U.S. publication? We have to look at that. That should be enough to ask questions. We're not making the conclusion and working backwards. We're noticing that that's what the FBI is doing. They're making the conclusion and working backwards. We're just asking questions, and we have to be honest with these questions and say, I'm not okay with you shutting this case. We have to look deeper and see that yes, I agree with on this memorial being something that elevates this Judeo-Christian mindset. What it's going to do is put Turning Points back in line where it was originally, was to hail in a new generation into this ideology that we can shit all over the Middle East as long as we put Jesus. Jesus is okay, guys, just as long as we hate those Muslims, and we can go and that's the excuse to keep bulldozing through the Middle East. And that was the whole point of capturing the Christian church from the beginning, 1912, when they took Palestine out of the map. So we are seeing the benefits from Israel from this, but we have to keep asking these questions, and we have to understand who is actually benefiting. And I think we all agree, and I'll say this last, we all agree that the distraction is away from the things we should be talking about. And that, I believe, is all by design.
Pasta, I just have something to say really quick, and I'll hand it over to you. And I think we do need to move on. We're probably just going to only be able to talk about this. But this is what was said in the gray zone. According to Kirk's longtime friend, Kirk's resentment of Netanyahu in the Israel lobby was spreading within Trump's inner circle. In fact, they said the president himself was terrified of Netanyahu's wrath and feared the consequences of defying him. So yes, Trump is being placed as somebody that's scared. The president of the United States is scared of Netanyahu and afraid of defying him. This entire thing has been thrown out multiple times, not just by them, but by a huge portion of the alternative mainstream media, that Trump is a victim, the same way it was thrown out about RFK, and not the possibility that perhaps this is how Trump feels. He agrees with it, and not perhaps the possibility that a great majority of our government that's in power, not everybody, but the vast majority feel this way about Israel, that they agree with it, that they're right in line with it. I'm sorry, but looking at the United States government as the victim of Israel rather than an enabler and a fully compliant enabler, it completely rids them of the culpability of what is being done here. The people of the United States might not agree with it. Many people have woken up to what Israel is and what they're doing, but that doesn't mean that our government isn't in line with that. And that's a reality that at 100% completely does what the opposite of what we should be doing, because instead of actually understanding that we need to stop this interaction with Israel, this relationship, that our government is 100% mostly in line with it, we're saying we're victims, and then therefore nobody can stand up against Israel. And that is being promoted by a lot of these people, that thought process. And what that's going to do is going to say maybe the next person in line with mild criticism of Israel should be acceptable for you to fix things, to reform things, when this cannot be reformed. And this is a very reformist mentality. It's a very actual liberal ideology. And the fact that Charlie Kirk was a Christian fundamentalist we're acting like that is something that's against Judaism. It's not. They're in line. In fact, Mormonism and the Judeo religion is completely in line with each other. They have so many things in common, and they have been fully in line. And the last thing I want to say to Kelly Lane about who's commenting about Charlie Kirk and his stance on Russia, a lot of people on the right, Trump Republicans, a lot of people went against the Russia-Ukraine narrative. They understood that Russia was not to blame. They got that one right. You know what? They did get it right because they literally saw an affinity to Russia based on the conservative values. And living in Russia has allowed me to see that also Russia has favored the Trump administration as well. And in that context, it's no surprise that somebody like Charlie Kirk, who was a quote unquote patriot and had a lot of that audience, was going to say, oh yeah, of course, the liberals, because it was the liberals that began that. It was the Biden administration that promoted that. Of course he's going to stand against that war. Of course he's going to be against the DOJ and Mueller. Of course, that falls right in line with his stance as a alt-right wing alternative media personality. So did Tucker. So did a lot of these people. That's neither here nor there. That's not a reason to say, oh, he was becoming anti-establishment. There's actual anti-imperialism, and then there's the opportunistic anti-establishment that exists, only dependent on the situation. There is actual opposition, and there is controlled opposition. And many of you get stuck in that realm of the actual controlled opposition. And you're not realizing how you're being manipulated by these new narrative managers that are out there, basically telling you that now you're a victim, that Trump is a victim, and that all these people are victims that are scared and nothing can be done, or little can be done, or if something can be done, it only has to come from one of the alternative mainstream media figures that say this. And to me, that is debilitating. It is weak. It is completely diminishing our role, our government's role in what is being done. And nothing has benefited us more than this, because we are forever divided. And I honestly, yes, eventually, yeah, that does benefit Israel, but it benefits the United States. This is what they want. This is what they want.
Can I just one comparison I think is very important. We all lived through COVID. We all have the same opinion on what they did to us. If this is a question I'll ask about Charlie Kirk, is the same with COVID. If enough people were just willing to go along with it because they fully believed it, why did they have to spend so much money and effort on the propaganda, specifically the part about threatening, bullying, and canceling people? Why would you have to do that? To create fear. So it's not okay for us to sit here right now and say, we can't call people afraid, people in office afraid. We're not allowed to call them afraid when there's massive amount of money being spent by Israel on creating the fear, controlling these politicians. If they really believed in their heart that the chosen ones get to do whatever they want, and they just naturally believed it, you wouldn't have to spend money on creating the fear.
but all right, but we shouldn't be providing cover.
If people believed that I just want to take an experimental jab, I'm just going to believe that on my own accord without being threatened to lose my job, without being told I'm going to be banished from society. So we can go victim shame and say, you only did it because you were afraid. That's a cop-out. That's a real thing. Fear is real. All right. It's not
okay, but you're talking about a guy.
That there's a mechanism
Matt.
in place.
You're talking about a guy, Matt. You're talking about a guy whose his whole candidacy was built upon America first, right? You're no victim, right? If you're going to say you're America first, right, but then go and be Israel first, right? You sold out. The fact that you're now afraid or you have fear is not even valid. Then don't sell me a snake oil salesman's fucking pitch. If you're going to go in there and say, listen, it's going to be hard because Israel has so much control, we're going to push back, then you're really going America first, but you're not.
Why do you need to blackmail
you're
why
saying
do you
one
need to blackmail
thing,
people?
selling us another. Your
why
fear
do you
doesn't
need to
mean
blackmail
shit to me.
people? If fear wasn't a thing, why do you need to blackmail people? Why do you need to spend so much money on getting politicians, getting tapes? We know how this works. You get into office, they fly you to Israel, they drug you up, they get a tape of you.
Okay, why is the fear justified?
Why do you need to do that if you already have the consent from them to put Israel first? If they already believe it in their heart, why do you need to spend so much effort and money putting people in a position where they have no choice?
I don't know. I just want to know how you can justify the fear, that it's a fear is the thing that Donald Trump needs to understand.
It's not justifying. It's pointing it out as a factor that exists. I'm not qualifying it.
Then you would argue that this whole time he was nothing but selling us a lie. Then he was selling us a lie.
Trump, Charlie Kirk.
You watch his behavior every time he gets mad at Netanyahu. He can't do anything about it. He just did it again. He just said
he just
said
like that, Matt.
The West Bank you cannot keep annexing the West Bank. I'm going to stop it. We know he won't. He can't. That's every single time he says I'm mad at what Netanyahu did in Iran. He can't do anything about it.
Nobody can.
No, he can't do anything about it.
So nobody can because so Matt, but nobody can then, right? Because then everybody's going to be afraid of Israel, and the person that's not is just going to be killed by them. Like this again. So like, if you're going into politics and you're going to be afraid of one entity, and by the way, we're still talking about Israel as just the state of Israel, what is called the state of Israel, or as Bibi Netanyahu. What this does again is pretty much just say that Zionism is only tied to Israel. It's not. Zionism has spread beyond. It's a global thing. Okay. So again, why is it that we are allowing people to get away with being so completely spewing hate against Palestinians for years, and then at the last minute, but he started talking about the U.S. intel agencies? Of course he did, because things have changed. The positions have changed. The wind has shifted. The same thing with COVID. You talk about COVID. Paulson and I were among the first people to talk about COVID, and we got so much shit thrown at us by people who now, by the way, have made it their thing that, they might not even be here today if it wasn't because we were talking about it first. And the thing is, the fact that people just talk about things when it's safe, to me, okay, fine. You came around. It's better late than never. But at the same time, that does not 100% mean that you somehow became a threat by simply questioning something when there's so many other powerful people that were already questioning it. And again, we're just going in circles here, because ultimately, I'm not going to allow the narrative to be that Trump is a victim, that Trump is scared, that any of our government officials are just simply too scared. If you look at Trump, who he has been for decades, he has been a proud Zionist. He has been very, very straightforward about his sentiments. It's not because he doesn't want to. I mean, at the end of the day, the truth is, Matt, that our presidents we know are figures, right? They're not necessarily in charge of the foreign policy. But if you look at who's in charge of the foreign policy, and you look at the State Department and the military, the vast majority of them are in alignment with Israel. Donald Trump would not be in the White House this time that he ran if he wasn't aligned with Israel. He is not a victim. Our government are mostly not victims. They are enablers of Israel. And if we victimize ourselves, then we're going to keep repeating this cycle over and over and over again, where we become helpless and unable to actually say no. You need to choose to do the right thing, and you need to choose to say no. It is possible. It is possible. But of course, that would cost you your life. JFK was not Charlie Kirk. Okay. JFK was not Charlie Kirk. There's a lot of comparisons being thrown out there. Charlie Kirk is Malcolm X.
Put Charlie Kirk on
is MLK. Like, seriously, he was not that guy. He was not a lifelong activist for a cause that was greater than himself. He was a podcaster that was grifting off division. Let's be real. Like that's what he did. You can look back at his videos. Just because he saw where the wind was blowing, now we want to immortalize him as a martyr and say that Israel took the time, the same time that you're saying, how did they take time to tweet? They took the time fighting all these wars to actually form a plot to assassinate him. And just because, by the way, what the questioning that I'm putting out there agrees with some of the mainstream, doesn't make it wrong, the same way that it doesn't make me a Zionist, the same way that just because you disagree doesn't mean you're compromised. Like this, people just look at things in a very non-nuanced way because it's not popular. It's very popular to say that Israel did it. Oh, let's all say Israel did it. Let's go online and talk about how Israel absolutely did it, how there's no doubt, how Charlie Kirk was coming around, how he was a threat to the deep state. It like that is the easy narrative to go. That narrative is actually far more popular than the trans person killing Charlie Kirk narrative, actually. So when a narrative gets that much push immediately, that much popularity immediately, and becomes almost unquestionable, that is when I start actually doubting the veracity of that narrative. And that is why I'm doubting it, because immediately it was thrown in there. Just like you say, immediately Netanyahu went out. The same thing.
We have the paper trail.
We don't have any evidence. We don't have any evidence that it was or wasn't. Example,
we have Harrison Smith tweeting out on August 13th.
That's not evidence.
I'm not going to name names, but I was told by someone close to Charlie Kirk, Charlie thinks Israel will kill him if he turns against them.
He said, she said. How does that stand in court? If we're in a court, how does that stand in court?
So listen, these are red flags that make the case more than Charlie was doing a general critique on Israel. That's not what this is about, is his critique on Israel. This is about the pushback he gets from Israel once he starts very minimal critique. That's what this is about. The threats, the calling of anti-Semitism, the turning on him. Everybody.
Laura Loomer called him an anti-Semite. I mean, that's the most Zionist person you could imagine. Look,
haven't you guys seen Laura Loomer called him anti-Semitic when he started questioning? Did you see? Everybody turned on him. We got these articles that came out in the Israel Times. These articles saying he's no longer. There's a whole smear campaign on him before he was killed. Have you guys seen any of this? There's one.
Yeah.
Here, I'll just put one up just so we have just one. Here, look at this.
But that doesn't mean it's that they did it.
No, I'm not. Again, notice the difference between evidence and proof. If you guys are only looking at his critique and not looking at this is important. How are we writing this off? This was available to us immediately. Okay? Charlie Kirk turns to anti-Semitic stereotypes amid Israel-Hamas war. This is smear campaign going against him before he was murdered. Yeah. You guys have to look at the pushback he got.
There's a lot of pushback on questionable people, Matt. There's a lot of people that think some of these influencers are that are pro-Palestinian, that are somehow, they hate Israel, but they're profiting off of it. Like, you can't take that away. You can't isolate that thing. Like, it is popular now to hate on Israel. This is why so many people on Twitter, like Lucas Cage, Jackson Hinkle, all these people have made a shit ton of money by criticizing Israel and being allowed to do it,
That's not
being
an
allowed
argument.
to do it, like Ian Carroll, like like being allowed to do it and saying, oh, so because people are calling them anti-Semites, because people are calling them saying they're Hitler, that means that they are a threat to the establishment. No, it's controlled opposition. So why can't we apply that to Charlie Kirk? Why is it that just because they started mildly criticizing him, because let's be real, the Zionists criticize anybody that remotely gives them the tiniest bit of criticism as an anti-Semite. They call everybody Hitler and Nazis. That's why is it breaking news? Why? Like, I don't understand why you're putting so much emphasis on that versus like everybody else that gets called an anti-Semite. Like it just doesn't, it's not enough to say, I think all things are possible. I'm not even advocating one single theory, but I am very suspect of the way this has been promoted across quote unquote independent media or alternative media, to the degree where it's all everybody's talking about and it's the only theory we've accepted. And it makes Charlie Kirk a victim, it makes Trump a victim, and it makes everything now that a lot of us have been working towards in terms of freeing ourselves from the uniparty, going back into believing in it, that it's a possibility that it's captured, but maybe if we can free Trump of his fear of Netanyahu, if we can make him America first, it will be free. That's where this is going. And by the way, we're coming into elections. We're coming into elections soon. So I look at that also in the context of what's happening. I don't know if you guys want to continue.
Well, let's put this thing up of Erica real quick, just to take a look at it, because we say who does it, who benefits. Obviously, Erica Kirk. Go ahead, Jamie, put that up. And this is the Erica files. I think how many millions of views this thing has. Meet Erica Franz Kirk, Miss Arizona 2012, a Trump pageant girl, a casting director, and now the widowed queen inheriting Charlie Kirk's empire. But peel back the trad wife veneer, and you'll find something darker. And this is something that's crazy. First of all, she was never in pageants before. The Trump team, or I don't know if it was Trump himself, convinced her to run in a pageant as a beauty queen, and she won in 2012. She then ran Romanian Angels, an orphan ministry, if you can move that up, in Constantanta, Romania. Locals accused it of trafficking children under the guise of mission work, exactly the model exposed, if you've forgotten, that Clinton Foundation scandals in Guatemala through Save the Children. Those Romanian orphans are exported to the UK, Israel, and undisclosed islands. Is it philanthropy or a pipeline? And if you don't remember, there was this whole thing where these people got, they were trying to smuggle children out of Latin America, and they were accused of smuggling children, once again, to be used for pedophilia, used as currency. She was caught up in the same scandal, very similar to that in Romania, where the Romanians, the locals, got her kicked out. But if her resume, you look at her resume, it definitely reads as a honeypot manual. Honeypot meaning set up, kind of handler. This is who you are. You keep an eye on this guy. You take care of them. Trump's Miss Arizona 2012, a Trump-owned pageant, a casting director, founder of multiple nonprofits with Orphan Project, married into MAGA's golden boy after falling in love over an interview set up by the Trump team. Is that coincidence or is that just placement? Number 4. Jamie. Thank you. Her father, the DOD plus Raytheon Israeli division. So in other words, the family was there. Her parents, prominent Zionist. Her grandfather, Carl Kenneth Franz, vice president of American Bank. Note, CO. Yes, the ones tied to secure printing NIDs. So this is something that Nick Fuentes was kind of pointing out. All these connections, all these people involved. The Grand Chief of Independent Order of Vikings, knighted by the King of Sweden. And this is what I'm saying. There are other aspects, other people out there. I would think that Nick Fuentes, Marjorie Taylor Greene, even Matt Gaetz would be more of a threat to Israel than Charlie Kirk was. I could be wrong, but these people really spoke out. She was wealthy before she married Charlie Kirk, by the way. Roy Cohen built the CIA sex kitten blackmail machine. Fam was pointing out earlier, if you look who Donald Trump is, if you go into the dark secrets of Donald Trump, if you paid attention to Whitney Webb's work, you would see that Donald Trump ran around with these people for a long time. So then when we see these connections with Erica Kirk, you can say, wow, holy shit, this is really kind of eye scratching over here, head scratching. Trump owned pageants and hotels, perfect leverage farms. Epstein wasn't a fluke. He was a franchise plug-in. So you understand the Roy Khan to Trump connection to Epstein. And man, let me tell you something. When the Epstein stuff was coming out and stuff, we saw very little of Donald Trump connected to it to what we see today. A lot more stuff has been blown off. I think that was by design. I think they kept the concentration on the Clintons for so long. And isn't it funny that you see Erica Kirk kind of tied into the same thing the Clinton Foundation was tied into? Everything that goes to Haiti and taking out children, to adrenochrome, it all leads back to the same group of people that exist on both the right and the left. Erica's pageant to angel trajectory fits the blueprint. Why would a young multimillionaire from an initiated family become a Trump pageant girls unless, and this is the thing where Erica is kind of getting those parallels to a Ghislaine Maxwell. Erica attended a Jesuit university, Regis University, located in Denver, Colorado. Guess who attended that Jesuit school? Again, Erica was recruited into modeling. Her first pageants were Donald Trump-owned Miss USA pageants, winning Miss Arizona 2012. Was she set up for Charlie the way Melania was set up for Donnie? Brought to you by Paolo Zampoli, a modeling agent with ties to the Mossad, Epstein's orbit, and elite trafficking rings. Okay. Even the branding repeats, and this is number 6. And we'll get off of this. Tate's Angels, the Cam Girl trafficking ring. This is Andrew Tate. Romanian Angels, Erica's orphan project accused of trafficking. Angels is a cover-up for export pipelines of flesh or younger side. This isn't religious branding. It's an operational branding. Meanwhile, Charlie Kirk's TP USA UK launched at the Royal Automobile Club under Prince Michael of Kent, Grandmaster of Freemasonry. George Farmer, Candace Owens' husband, sat as chairman, tied to Andrew Tate long before Candace. And these are all controlled networks, you know. And then the last one just goes on, number 8. So ask yourself, the Erica Kirk, the grieving Tradwhite, or CIA Mossad honeypot who just inherited the keys to MAGA's youth machine, did she pay her dues and rite of passage? Charlie's political machine didn't collapse. It was transferred, resurrected through his ritual death. Now she gets handed everything, all these questionable ties. So yes, this is why we can't rule out the fact that this is just one global cabal working together to handle things and to control things. Erica Trump's ties are very, very questionable. Very, very questionable. Is Candace controlled op? I don't know. She's kind of plugged in with a lot of people connected to this network. So, I mean, you can go look at this, the Erica files, the Erica Kirk files. Take a look into it. But, man, this rabbit hole yesterday was just reading about this. I'm like, holy cow. This is...
I just want... Pasta, since you said that...
Up there.
Well, I just want to say... Anna Kasparian, right, has gotten out there and started being a huge advocate of Palestine now. So so now Anna Kasparian, who for the longest time was one of the biggest like pro-trans, like pro, lefty, like status quo liberal, is now, her and Cenk have both shifted to being super anti-Israel, super a little bit of like the same of the alt left and the alt right, like where it's like, yeah, we're gonna question all these things, we're gonna do that. So because they did that shift, does that mean you take them as genuine, right? I think a lot of people don't ask that question. They're like, it doesn't matter as long as like now they're saying the right thing. I don't agree with that line of thought, and I think a lot of the way I view things comes from that perspective, because for me, the motivations behind why people do things matter. And actually the motivations sometimes matter more than what we see, because we're not seeing the handlers. We're not seeing what's behind the scenes. You're just seeing the theater play out. And that's why I for me, when I see these shifts that are somehow, these people that are somehow allowed to say a lot of these things that other people aren't allowed to say, and now it's like acceptable to say them. That's just reading the room, and that's just people that are allowed to say that. Like, it's just, it doesn't mean that they're an actual threat. Further, it means that they are not a threat, that they have been allowed to say these things, to have this pushback, and to have this theatrical display, much like what we saw between Netanyahu and Donald Trump, much like what we see with Donald Trump and Putin and Zelensky. Donald Trump is a master, I will say that, when it comes to theatrics. He's the WWE guy. I mean, this guy constantly puts on shows for people. It's just like very obvious to me that what we're being fed is very theatrical in the entire aspect. And like none of this adds up. None of anything that's out there is really adding up. But people are choosing which narrative to play into. And it's just that to me is the most frustrating part. People like to pick characters and say, oh, I believe this person just came around. I mean, Kelly keeps posting quotes that Charlie said on Tucker Carlson, like it's anything, like it's not all the things he said have been long accepted a long time ago. Like this is the most basic thing you can say now. And like it's not anything out of the ordinary just because it's Charlie Kirk, because he's influential in the right at this stage. I mean, you have to understand these people are always ahead of us. They're always ahead of how to control media because nobody watches CNN anymore. Nobody watches mainstream media. So what they've had to do is go into the alt media space and control it. And that's exactly what's happening right now. And that's exactly why we're being fed the narratives that we're being fed, and how, you know, only certain people are allowed to spew these narratives, and whatever they decide is what you believe in. It's no longer just about the mainstream, that they're not powerful anymore. What's more powerful now is the alternative mainstream. And that's not being talked about at all whatsoever.
Let's get to the next video real quick too, as well. Jamie, that you have up there that we have in the doc, the theories, right? So let's play this here. Let's play this over here, guys. All the way to help the show are down below. I'm here with Matt Weinglass, FIORELLA, Isabella. I'm Craig Pasta Jardula. Cheese slice on the ones and twos. This is the Truthwire. Thank you so much for helping us out. Like I said, all the links are down below to help out independent media. Here we go.
In America, over the last 10 years, counting or not counting gang violence? Great. In America, over the last 10 years, counting or not counting gang violence? Great.
Everybody's saying it's the lavalier, right?
In America, over the last 10 years, counting or not counting gang violence? In America, over the last 10 years, counting or not counting gang violence? In America, over the last 10 years, counting or not counting gang violence? Great. In America, over the last 10
You can't
years,
really tell.
counting or not counting gang violence? Great.
So the lavalier would suggest an inside job. A lot of people are talking about it. You know, one of the questions I was posing today is the meltdown on the right, right? Okay, so, you know, Matt has something to say about that. You know, we were talking before the show, but this whole Stu Peters saying it was the lavalier, a guy set it off. And then you got Alex Jones going after Stu Peters saying he's really irresponsible. It's satanic for him to say that. He shouldn't have said that. By the way, my pills, my dick juice is on sale. You can get it. Live a healthier life. Look at me. And then you have Candace doing her things. You got Nick Fuentes going off. But watching the alt-right, which the reason why I'm pointing it out, very influential. A lot of views on these things going on, moving a lot of people in their mindset and their opinions and stuff. But now they're saying it's all about the lavalier. It is suggesting an inside job. Do you guys have any thoughts about what you hear and what you see when it comes to the actual lavalier?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'll say right off the bat, this goes right back to our starting point, and it's saying that there are questions that are deliberately not being asked or answered by the FBI. They Kash Patel, that's the guy I would look at before saying how many people are getting, you know, extra views and making more money reporting on this. That's not, I'm more concerned about the fact that this footage is there. We need to look at it. We need to consider every possibility. We need to consider the things I said earlier are also very important. How the security team handled this, how we have not just these different angles that we're seeing, the potential that there could have been a detonation, a potential it could have been another bullet involved, another shooter involved. There's so much there that when you see the FBI say 100%, we're done, we figured this out, it's over, that's it, case closed. It's clear that there's more going on here. And so you say everybody is saying it's good that people are asking this question. I don't think that it's about having a conclusion at this point. I think it's about why are we not seeing, why is the FBI not looking into this stuff? I have one more I'm going to throw up too, because it's just as important. And I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at this. This is the immediate after the fact of taking down the security cameras. And this,
Yeah.
again, this is his security detail doing this. This is people involved with, they're supposed to be protecting him. So watch this as well. This is also of note, and it's very concerning that Kash Patel doesn't want to have anything to do with this, as well as the footage you just showed.
I just heard them say the active shooter, Charlie Kirk, has been shot. Charlie Kirk
there he is
what the security detail just
so
said.
They're cleaning this thing up. So everybody is scattered, and if you go back to this guy, he just got off the chair.
He took the camera, and once again, they're saying that there's a fear of the FBI trying to hide stuff, and that he wanted to grab that, so therefore he could protect Charlie.
That's something
that, yeah,
that's total
it's a
BS.
possibility.
Seeing what's on that camera, and by the way, why did he take the chair that Charlie Kirk was sitting in? That's part of the crime scene, and used it as a stepping stone. So we know the entire place has been completely paved over. So this is the comparisons. I know you guys, I get it. Like, don't compare Charlie Kirk to Martin Luther King. Don't compare Charlie Kirk to JFK. The comparison isn't who they were as a person. The comparison is what kind of effort is being put in to cover this thing up. What kind of effort they're being put in.
Go to the Captain Austin Fitz video, by the way.
The single shooter theory. I mean, I can't help but think of this Lee Harvey Oswald case closed. It doesn't make any sense.
There are a lot of parallels, right? Like he was never checked into he was never taken to a hospital, that sort of thing. Like, listen,
there's so much. The list is so long.
Yeah.
They put him in an unmarked car. They took him to a plane owned by a Zionist, Jewish Zionist donor. They said
the radar turned off
You
the
have
plane. I've seen it all. I've seen it all, and it's just so confusing because there's so much stuff thrown out there. Jamie, go to the CAN, Captain Austin Fitz video. Crowdsourced the truth, George Galloway, all those people. They said, he was shot behind. We saw the videos. We saw that. We saw the guy take down the camera. Let's listen to what Captain Austin Fitz has to say. I haven't seen this yet. You're watching the Truthwire.
This is a theater where you're making it up as you go, and as you see how the audience reacts, you change the story, and you evolve the story, and you create the story. This is a theater production. But the important thing to understand about that theater is that in this case, I'm seeing something I've never seen before. And that is when they do this kind of theater, and when I say they, I mean the intelligence agencies. When they engineer a theater like this, they always, they like to mock the crowd. I have never seen the mockery this extreme. This is different. This is new. It's a joke. It's a joke that you would say, we have a manifesto, but it disappeared, but we know it existed and we think we might be able to get it. It's like, what are you talking? I mean, no experienced enforcement person would say that, could possibly say that with a straight face. I mean, it's a mockery, but then, it turns out the roommate, he's got a roommate, the roommate is trans, they were lovers, but he told his lover, before this, and he did it on this, and and so they keep adding pieces to the story of who the alleged assassin is that make it more and more ridiculous and more ridiculous. And every time, and it's a way of mocking at the audience that they can get them to buy this.
You know what? I don't disagree with a lot of what she says, right?
Yeah.
I think it's up in the air for who done it. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. But,
I don't disagree with what she's saying at all. I do think it's theater, but I'm not convinced that it's Israel. I don't automatically assume that Israel is always working with the CIA. I've talked to many former intelligence officers that a lot of this is done not with Israel, and in terms of the FBI, that would be more of the domestics of it. But my issue is that people have decided that it absolutely is. And I'm open to questioning things, but it's become more about, look what he said the last month, and therefore Israel did it. That's what it's become. And that's the problem I have with this whole thing.
Do you guys believe the text messages that were recreated?
No.
No. So you understand that's complete BS, right? Like, I mean,
I don't believe it, but I don't believe it. But is it 100%? Can I say that it's 100% untrue? No, I can't, because how do I disprove it? I don't believe
text,
it, but
the
yeah.
recreation texts are evidence that the FBI is covering something. That's evidence. It's not proof. It's evidence. If you look at the actual text, everything about it is a red flag. Every single bit of it. The vocabulary the guy had, the telling, I'm gonna stop what I'm doing and I'm gonna go through everything in that. It covers the basis of the narrative. You want to talk about reverse engineering and a conclusion, you throw a text out like this so you can reverse engineer the results. He's making a confession, he's confirming the location of the weapon, he confirms the type of the weapon, he confirms the towel being wrapped in, his motive is in there, he's exonerating this George Zinn character, decoy. He's admitting about the bullets being engraved. He talks about the wardrobe changing. It's all like he has time to do all of this and still refer to it. Oh, my lover, this, my lover, that. And please erase this thing because we know that the FBI is really good at what they do. It's like you can't. This is what Catherine Austin Fitz is talking about. They're mocking us. They're mocking us with this type of thing. And for the first time,
but we don't know who they is.
Can I just add this? Right. For the first time, when we talk about the conflict on the right, look at the left. For the first time, we had a comment saying this on our Rumble channel. For the first time, we're seeing the left asking questions. You've never heard them do this before. Even they are saying this doesn't make any sense, and they're sounding as quote unquote conspiracy theorists for the first time when they were in line with everything, right? Russiagate, COVID, everything. Yeah. But they're like, wait a minute, this is weird. This is very weird. So, like, yes, I agree with Catherine Austin Fitz 100%. They are mocking us at this point. So we have to understand the FBI is covering something up. This is evidence, not proof. It is evidence. The text chain is actual evidence that can be looked at as fraud completely. Nobody talks like this. Nobody covers every single base in this. And then one more thing, add to the mix, the Dairy Queen picture that Candace Owen released, where we have exact timestamp of 6:38 p.m. He's in a Dairy Queen that's a 17-minute drive away. That would have happened right in the middle of him telling his lover that he has to go back and redo and change an outfit and do all this stuff. And he's literally wearing the top of one outfit and the bottom of another. So that puts a hole in the entire FBI story. So you want evidence? That is enough to go to court. Again, not against Israel. It's enough to go against the FBI in an actual blatant cover-up that they're doing right in our face.
All right, you guys, we got to roll because we just spent an hour and 35 minutes on this one question. Fam, I see the next section. You have some stuff about who Charlie Kirk was. You want to pick a couple that you want to go because there's a lot.
Yeah. So why don't we let's see. Why don't we go on the first? Let's go. Let me see. Let me click on it. Let's go on the first one, I think. Oh no. Okay, so no. Let's go on the second one. The second one, Jamie. This one that's being highlighted right now. Let's see what that one. There's a video I wanted to show. We can. Yeah. Okay, so this is this was done, I believe. I think it wasn't that long before he was killed. I just want us to watch what this. I mean, everybody's seen it, but yeah, let's just watch this one. The Palestinian
it's funny.
one.
I used to say that, hey, if you as a gay person would go to Gaza, they'd throw you off of tall buildings, right? Now they don't have any tall buildings left, so I don't.
When you mess with the bull, you get the horns.
Is that too soon? I'm sorry. Maybe you shouldn't kill Jews, stupid Muslims.
I like that.
Where was I? So yeah. So
So there's something I want to say on that. I don't even know what Charlie Kirk's stance actually is, because his motivation was to play into a role that he was a part of. Like, I don't know if he actually believed that about Muslims or Palestinians or whatever. But his motivation is clearly financial, right? Like it's clearly he inciting some sort of thing. Maybe he believed it. He was a Christian. There's that fundamentalist ideology tied to it. But how can people say that somebody that's so closely to the time he was killed, had all those beliefs, and then suddenly just, like was scared of Israel because the mild pushback he gave. Like it just doesn't align. And like the issue I have is, question everything, question the mainstream narrative, but also be aware that there's another narrative that's being pushed also that actually alleviates people like Charlie and people like Donald Trump from responsibility. That I think that should not happen. That we can't just, because he's dead, make him something that he isn't. And that's a huge part of this whole thing, where mild criticism of him, even bringing up these videos, is like, yeah, but he changed. Yeah, but he did this. I'm seeing that narrative also be pushed out in the mainstream. And it's not just this one video. There's multiple videos of him just completely being who he was. And he made a lot of money that way. He got a lot of people on his side that way. That speaks to a greater context as to how a lot of these, I would say, more extremist parts of our country, whether it's the right or left, are, especially the right, are generating popularity, are generating this type of influence. And somehow we're trying to alleviate them from the responsibility.
I don't think so at all. We're not alleviating. We're using it as a litmus test of what happens when somebody with so much influence asks a question. They go from the greatest asset to the greatest liability. That's what we're looking at. It's not about saying, oh, what an amazing, oh man, he was the most amazing dude. We could play these clips all day.
But we don't know he was a liability though. How do you're assuming that he became a liability. You're assuming that it's true that Israel killed him. But I'm saying,
not
like,
assuming
that's not
it's true that Israel killed him. I'm saying that if we understand the reach he had and was going to have, we have to understand the Gen Zs growing up, the ones that were not at voting age before.
He's not Gen Z. He's a millennial.
These are the COVIDian generation, that were born into COVID. They're coming into their adulthood. This is a whole new world that we haven't seen before. This is, like I said earlier in the show, it's like Obama times 1,000, because it's the only thing I can relate to. When we saw the coming of Obama, we saw this hope and change movement that was completely fabricated. We didn't know at the time. This is the new version of that. This is what that was. So imagine if Obama all of a sudden said, wait a minute, you're going to give me my entire cabinet? I don't know if I'm okay with that. And I'm saying, look, he was already in the position to get that job, and he already did. And he already said F you to the people, and he went right into the war machine, and he never looked back. We know that now. But I'm saying that here's a guy they had created. He signed his soul to the devil. No one's not saying that. The gray zone's not saying. No one's saying that he didn't sign up for this. What we're saying is, look at the timeline. Look at him calling it out, even mildly, and then look at what the threats and the fear and people saying that were close to him. He thought they were going to kill him, and all of.
But people are saying that. But people saying that doesn't mean that it's true. That's what I'm saying. Like, we don't know. I don't know if it's true or not.
Yes, but we can't attack people that are asking the questions about it. We have to allow the real journalism.
But they're not asking the questions only. There's a lot of people that are saying that this is it. This is true. This is what happened, and we need to accept it. And if we mildly question this alternative mainstream narrative that's being promoted, we're Zionists or we're liberals. We're in bed with Israel. We're demonic. Like, that's my issue with it. It's not even the questioning. Of course we can. Of course you're going to say, oh, Israel could do it because Israel has a whole history of doing this, just like the CIA, just like the FBI, just like all of these agencies. Absolutely. Of course, question it. But it's more of like that we're using very weak evidence of mild pushback to say that this is a reason for Israel to kill him. And a lot of Gen Z didn't like him, because a lot of Gen Z are actually leaning left. There is a sector that's not, mainly men. I mean, that was Charlie's audience, mainly men. But there are a large sector of Gen Z that actually despise everything he stood for. I mean, I have a younger sibling. They were like cheering for the fact that he was gone. I mean, this is how people feel. Just as much as some people liked him, a lot of people hated him.
Yeah.
A lot of people hated what he stood for. It's
a lot of
it's
people on
like both.
campuses. Yeah. They said
Yeah, a lot
they
of
would
people
voice
on
their opinions,
campuses.
that everything he was spewing was hating. If you go back, listen, I wish I can play a clip of a caller I had on Wednesday who said, listen, I heard about Charlie Kirk. I didn't know much about him. People were saying all this stuff that he was coming around, and I went back and I started watching. He goes, I couldn't get through a half hour of his stuff. The guy just pushed divisive hate all the time. And I've said this before, some of the worst biases out there. And yeah, I get it. Like right now, it could be anybody out there. I mean, I don't think it could be anybody. I think there's a good chance that, a lot of people within our own country, our own government had a hand in it. Were they working with Israel? Who knows? But to say it's Israel no matter what, just cut blank, that's it. That's kind of a small, weak position in my mind. But, I'm open to be convinced. I can't believe I'm aligning with Mike Tracy, Dan Cohen, and Ryan Dawson. Like that's who we're aligning ourselves with over here. But I'm saying they all have the same opinions. A lot of them stating the fact, even Dave Smith, that Charlie Kirk was no real threat to Israel. He was a rabid Zionist, and the where he was pushing was stuff that's been out there for quite some time. Him reading the room. Who knows? We'll just continue to watch what's going on, and all we can do is look at how things are manipulated around on us. But before we go any further on this, because we're an hour and 42 minutes into this, let's get to Israel, Gaza. There's a lot of stuff going on right now because this might be the end games. Let's not forget, Donald Trump is not America first, his Israel first. But if there is anything that he has, it's a financial incentive to hope that this ethnic cleansing goes along quickly. Him and Jared Kushner want to put up some kind of condos on the water over there at Gaza. They see that as an ally, opening it up to Western dual citizenship Jews that can go over there, Jewish supremacists that can go over there and get themselves a oceanside view. And that's why they want this to continue to go on. But fam, I have this up here over Sam Husseini put up the other day, fam. And you want to talk about the controlled, once again, how much is controlled, right? The U.S. government claims it went after TikTok because of foreign influence, but now they are reportedly trying to hand it over to a consortium that includes Oracle, whose executive chair, Larry Ellison, talks like he's a citizen of Israel and not the U.S., a country of our own, defended by all the brave men and women of the IDF. So anything we can do to support them, allowing our state to continue. That was put out there by Sam Husseini. Fam, and Matt, if anybody wants to jump in, as we're talking and saying Israel didn't do it, we're pointing the finger that Israel is mopping up and consuming more information out there, more outlets that can push back against them. Your thoughts on this whole situation going on right now that Sam Husseini is pointing out?
Matt, go ahead.
Okay. No, this is all part of the plan. The TikTok thing, we've been watching this unfold the last year. And this is, you know what, I have to say, like, I see some people waking up that were kind of bought and sold on this idea that we needed to shut down TikTok because of China. That we covered all that when that happened, right? And the whole, a red note came up and that whole, there was that little pause on it. Well, now this is 100% checked out now. We understand that and the White House has confirmed this, that TikTok's algorithm is now going to be entirely repackaged, retrained. They call it retrained and secured. That was what was said officially by the White House, and this is with the new ownership that's coming directly from Ellison, directly from a Zionist money and influence. This will not actually be TikTok anymore. This will be a platform that just uses the name TikTok, but we're going to be, it's Israeli spyware, and that's all there is to it. That's how it's going to be. And then you got this, obviously the hand in CBS and all these other communication outlets. This is exactly where we were warning we were headed. And so here we are. And at least I could say this, there are people waking up to this again, they bought that crap about China last year, but now they're like, wait a minute, this doesn't look good. How are we going to be able to communicate if everything, all of our devices are going to go right back to Israeli spyware? It's really bad. This is worse than censorship. This is weaponizing our platforms against us beyond just cancellation. This is actually using us, and we talk about the supercomputer and putting us all in this database. But this is not good. This is not good at all. And the timing, we really need to look at the timing of this going through, and the White House announcing this just a few days ago.
I think that we have to start looking and understanding, because the one thing that Fam said that really resonates with me more than anything this whole show is the fact is that, you know, looking at Israel as some separate entity, like, you know what I'm saying, and everybody else is a victim of it. That's the danger here. Our government marches hand in hand with Israel. You can say they are the same government. They are the same group of people, whether it's Israel pulling the strings or the United States pulling the strings, the foreign policy apparatus, the deep state of our own country, right? And the people who run it are aligned and working hand in hand with Israel. So I don't think you can separate the two anymore. I think we have to kind of assume that they're working together and everything they're doing. That's why I'm saying, like with the whole Charlie Kirk thing, did Israel do it? No, our own government had a part to play, and we shouldn't minimize what's going on, whether they're taking orders directly from those who are in charge of Israel, or they're just working together in conjunction to obtain one goal, which is a one world government where they can track and trace policies, find out what people are saying, collect the data on them. And that's here with us right now, as Sam Husseini so eloquently pointed out. Fam.
I just want to say that Donald Trump pushed this legislation
at the UN
through.
Yeah.
And Donald Trump is doing this because he's working with the deep state that is also in line with Israel. I don't think they're exactly the same, but I think that those connections are massive. And again, Donald Trump is not free of culpability because he may or may not be scared. I mean, this is actual policy that Donald Trump put, and this was always going to happen because Donald Trump has the most Zionist administration in history. And so for me, this is just added another layer to the fact that this is like what was going to happen. This TikTok situation was already happening months ago. This was already in the deal months ago. It's not because Charlie Kirk was killed now, therefore this can happen, which is a lot of what I've been seeing online. Like that, oh, look, because it's happening now, it means that now Charlie Kirk, the threat is eliminated, and now, this can happen. This has been a long time coming. A lot of the policies we're seeing now are in place because Donald Trump has Miriam Adelson, has Zionists in his cabinet, and has worked with big tech in Silicon Valley to create and centralize power in this way on the behalf of Israel. And notice how Oracle's involved in this whole TikTok thing. And you have certain people within the alt-right, like Candace Owens and others, who are promoting still Oracle while simultaneously criticizing Israel. There's a lot of that also on Rumble. And I just asked myself, like, why would Oracle support certain people speaking out against Israel if they're criticizing Israel? Like, now it's becoming very clear to me that there is a mechanism of Israel, whether it's the intelligence apparatus, that understands that in order to gain our trust and in order to further divide us and control us, they have to create mechanisms of controlled opposition to continue really working us, because it is no longer feasible to just say the mainstream media is right, that the mainstream media is a thing. I mean, that's becoming less and less feasible because Israel's not popular at all. They're extremely unpopular. Mainstream media is unpopular. And now the youth, if we're talking about the youth, they're not watching any of that. They're watching YouTube, they're watching TikTok, they're watching Instagram or short videos that are like a minute long. So how do you control the youth is you promote these certain narratives and agendas, and they become a little bit more complex than just liberal versus right. And so that's what we have to look at when we're entering in this discussion.
So I'm going to guess why Oracle would maybe want Candace Owens speaking right now. Maybe it's because she's waking some people up to the things that the FBI is deliberately not covering in the Charlie Kirk case, because now that the FBI is saying we're closing this case, it's over, we have everything we need, we're moving on. They're also at the same time, and this goes back to the timing with the Oracle, with Ellison's deal with TikTok and CBS. What the FBI is saying now is, we have a problem online. We need to start focusing our attention. This is what they're doing right now, taking attention away from an actual case that is not solved, saying it's solved. And now we're going to focus our time on stopping anti-Semitism and i.e. conspiracy theories about Israel being behind Charlie Kirk. So we're going to be working with, I don't know, maybe Oracle to do that now that they own TikTok and CBS. So that's why you might want Candace Owen getting people angry about the questions that have no answers. And now you have this censorship state being pushed tenfold. Meanwhile, Netanyahu is trying to give a speech about his crappy genocide defending, and people are walking out of those conferences right now. But meanwhile, we're not allowed to have these discussions. So that's why you'd want people to get upset about this. Therefore, you can make them the problem and clamp down more on our social media. So we're not allowed to have these discussions.
So then Oracle would be supporting a bunch of anti-Zionists, is what you're saying.
But that's what Zionism is. Let's be clear. Zionism needs anti-Semitism to exist for it to exist. This is how it works. You guys, we've all seen the movie Unbreakable. Samuel L. Jackson tells us, I need to exist. You need to exist for me to exist.
Yeah, that's Wizard of Oz. Yeah. No, I agree. That's a possibility.
So absolutely, you need it. If you don't have anti-Semitism, you can't justify your behavior. You can't justify your occupation. You can't justify your genocide. You have, and not to mention your censorship. You have. So
it's not real then?
Well, no.
So these people that are out there, whether it's Candace Owens, Tucker, or whoever, they're really not. They're not really believing that they're anti-Zionist.
No, that's not true at all. Listen, you can use your platform to. Look, we don't have to agree. Again, we don't have to agree with everything, obviously, that Charlie Kirk says. We don't have to agree with everything Tucker says or Candace says. But what we can say about Candace Owen right now, she's the only one with the influence she has. She's the only one doing actual journalism right now. She's the one releasing stuff that Kash Patel won't touch. So you can say, oh, well, she's not honest because what? Because her influence also involves connections with people we don't.
Why can't we follow the money though? But we follow the money everywhere, though. Why are we ignoring that fact? I'm just like confused why we're not following the money when it comes to that.
Because so this is our job is to separate things from people. We can't be judge, jury, and executioner every time somebody opens their mouth. Just because Ian Carroll tweets out something that's true, we can't say, well, I'm not going to listen to it because we have a history with him. Just because Candace Owen, we have to look at the thing. We have to stop killing the messenger. We have to stop killing the messenger. This is what people did during COVID. You kill the messenger. You say, oh, the wellness company is making so much money. F them. Okay. Well, that's a separate thing. But this is Oracle, though. But what if you're saying something that's actually true? Can we look at that? Oh, but they're making money off of it. Peter McCullough is making money. But he also is saying things that are true. So we have to be able to separate the truth from the money of who's making money promoting something. So we have to look at those are separate issues. We can't be the judge, jury, and executioner and the moral compass every time somebody opens their mouth and then hold them accountable for everything they've done their entire life.
But if someone's taking money from Israel, why would I trust that what they're saying doesn't have another motive or that they're not being controlled by something else? I don't know. But what I'm saying is, why would I blindly take what they're saying as full on? If I'm going to discount the liberals for getting money from AIPAC or the Republicans, then I'm going to look at why is this person who's criticizing Israel, right? Who is asking a lot of questions, who is providing a lot of documentation. Why is this person still being supported by Israel? Doesn't that compromise them? This is how, like, we have anti-imperialists notoriously looked at things. We follow the money. And if there's questionable funding, we've always kind of looked at it and said, oh, well, maybe we should question what is being said. Like, so my whole thing is, like, I'm not saying to crucify her or not, but what I am saying is, why is Oracle funding certain people? Why are certain people on Rumble allowed to say things, or on other platforms allowed to say things and being funded if they are, fighting against the establishment? It just doesn't make sense to me.
It's a good question. I would just say Anna Kasparian, you brought her up earlier. It's a great one to look at. We know the history of TYT. We know the Katzenberg money from Hillary Clinton's campaign. So, but is she and Jank saying things that are true right now? Yes. So these are, but yes, I'm not.
There's a lot of truth in all your psyops. That's the part of why it's a psyop.
Yeah.
They got to gain your confidence and your support by telling some truths out there. It's where they take you. It's what else are they saying that is, and that's where you question Candace
Where
is
I'm
saying
getting at.
this.
Yeah.
She's going to tell you some truth. Hey, there was a lot of things said that I agree with on the Steve Bannon show, but at
And
the end
Alex
of the day, I knew
Jones,
where it was
too.
trying to drive. Yeah,
Yeah.
I knew where they were trying to drive us. There's a lot of truth in your psyops.
So let's look at information more than the person that is sounding the alarm. Let's look at the actual information. We learned that from COVID. Let's look at the information, not the shaming the person for whatever money they made doing selling a product.
But the money matters, though. Like
Well,
where they
it
get
does,
their money,
and that's important. But also, so we can hold them accountable for that. At the same time, both can be true. Hold them accountable for money exchange. Also, if you said something that's true, let's look at it, or let's question it. Let's look at it. Let's not write it off. That's all I'm saying. So these are separate
Let's
things.
take a look, because this is a long ass show. There's so much stuff to talk about. Let's look about what the influence. Fiorella did an interview. I set it up as a producer years ago with Cynthia McKinney, talking about the first person to go in there on a flotilla and what she did years ago when it wasn't popular. Now we got this flotillas out there right now. Are there two? Are there more than one flotilla? Is Camilla still on?
Yeah,
Is that flotilla?
I don't know about Camilla, but
Yeah, I
there's
don't know where she's
multiple
at.
flotillas,
I
and
was doing some news on one of the flotillas. Yeah,
they converged already.
they did. Okay, so Italy sent out a warship to protect them.
Yep.
You have the Italian and the Irish workers going, if anything happens to this flotilla, we'll shut this whole thing down, meaning the docks controlling everything that goes in and out. And there's a lot of people who are talking about this whole flotilla, what's going on. The fact that Italy, the government, the nation state of Italy, sent out a warship to protect it. That's crazy stuff. Are you still here, Jamie? Did you move?
I think he's there, yeah.
Spain, Italy send a warship to protect the flotilla, and Italy strikes in Gaza. This whole, I've been getting sent messages from people down. This whole shut it down from Israel, Gaza. I mean, this thing is huge. What are your guys' thoughts on when you see this whole information about Italy sending out a warship and then the Italian workers? Italy is holding a powerful 24-hour national strike demanding an end to the Italian arms sales to Israel, sanctions to ending the genocide, and justice for Palestine. Footage from the top of the Termini station in Rome. Take a look. Here it is. They're ready to shut it down, guys. I wanted to, by the way, Italy, the citizens standing, the Italians standing on the right side of history, fam.
Yeah, so this started as a 24-hour strike, and it continued. It continued into the next day and beyond. So this was a massive moment, and I don't think this would have happened without the workers who were the first to speak up. And we covered this this was like 3 weeks ago, because the flotilla had to reset because of there was a weather issue, and then they had to reset and go out again. And on that moment, that's when the workers in Spain and in Italy, this was a union movement. This was huge. So they all teamed up, and they said, if Israel attacks the flotilla once they go out again, and this was the big one, they said we will cut off supplies to you. We will not show up to work. We are in charge of the ins and outs. So we can basically do 100% cutoff of all your supplies. We can do it. So when the workers said that, we will do that. If you touch these people, if you do one thing to them, we're done. That's what resonated, and that's what kind of forces. We talk about bottom-up movement. We've had this discussion. How do you get your government to get behind a good cause? They're not doing it because it's the moral thing to do. They're doing it because they've been forced to by the people, which makes this flotilla, this mission, the most effective that we've seen thus far. And I do think that this is exactly what we needed. And that's why you're seeing the warships now being activated. I don't know if you guys want to play that part of it, but this is right now in the last 24 hours, they're arriving. I think that the Italy warship has now arrived and is now accommodating them, or part of the mission now. So this is a huge deal. Again, it's a bottom-up movement that started with the workers, taking to the streets on this.
Yeah, the Italian people have always been in terms of like pushing back, pretty incentivized. They've always been out there. Same with like the Spanish population, but the governments themselves are weak. There's a lot of talk about, you know, Spain and Italy, the governments really just doing this for PR. Not really actually having a hand in actually defending people, but just like defending their own people, making sure that everything runs smoothly. Italy was going to give a lot of the aid to an Israeli approved organization. And I think what we have to watch out for here is, while there's a lot of good coming out of the flotilla, and I think it's actually more powerful that there are more than one, that there are several, and that's actually there is a lot of vocal energy around it. What we should also be asking is why haven't, and this is where the whole questioning of the government of Italy and Spain, why haven't the governments of Italy and Spain done the same directly for Gaza? Why haven't they actually taken stronger stances for that? And that's always something I think to look at. Why? Because it becomes about the flotilla rather than about Gaza. And these people are trying to do something good. They're trying to get this aid to the people that need it. But simultaneously, there's a lot of like belief that's being put on these governments that, as even some people in our chat are commenting, like they're weaponizing this for good PR without actually doing something about it. What we have to go back to is the people on the ground, like the people actually forcing their government to do this. This is something that we don't have in the US, that we don't do in the US. You know, our focus is completely shifted, but this is what's happening. This is what other people around the world are doing. So it's something to look at as well. And it'll be interesting to see if the flotilla gets there. Notoriously, you know, it's an activist thing. They usually don't get there. They usually, it's more about drawing attention to the cause. So hopefully it actually does get there and something happens, because I mean, what we're again coming to this 2-year anniversary of this genocide, and the entirety of, for me, like looking at the UN and international law has been absolutely useless. I mean, we're like, this is absolutely useless. Israel killed people in Lebanon as well, killed a whole family. That's not being talked about. And I think that there's also that I guess that the anger that comes from like what are Americans focused on right now versus like what our country is doing with Israel right now, as we're all divided and as we're all, you know, arguing about this Charlie Kirk situation. Like, look at what Israel is doing, and we are enabling it, and look at how other people around the world are actually trying to fix the situation, versus what we're doing.
We need to keep an eye on this though, because it's not, I mean, it's one thing. Okay, so we got Spain and Italy sending the warships. I think Italy has reached the flotilla now, but we have others that are speaking up now and are going to jump on this bandwagon as well, which I guess wouldn't have happened. Again, it's a step process. You force your government into compliance by threatening to shut off, you know, the supply chain, and it looks like that on top of Spain and Italy, you have Greece and Portugal. I saw that. I wasn't able to grab the clip there, but they're also sending out some protection as well. So this could be a massive ordeal. And even though you're saying they might not make it, or what aid is actually going to get to the Palestinians who are literally starving to death. And you're right. Like, we need to look at the actual thing happening that we've been funding, we've been supporting, we've been initiating the entire time. But this magnitude of support for this flotilla is doing something, if not literally handing the aid over or not. It's sending this message to Israel that you can't F with us when we all team up together. Not just the people in the street, which we've seen, but now the country's actually sending their warships. It's a turn. I think it's a turn of events we might be experiencing right now, and we need to really see how this unfolds. Oh, look at this. Here we go. Yeah.
I think this is like, it's kind of amazing what the Italian people did and the Spanish people have done to get this out there that they have to put at least just send it. But you could just see, you can sense like Maloney having a discussion with Netanyahu on the phones. Hey, I'm gonna send the warship out there, but it don't do anything. It's just gonna do a sail by just to let my people.
She's
know.
busy gawking at Jelani.
Huh?
Have you seen? She's busy gawking at Jelani.
Jelani. Same with Petraeus. I mean, holy shite, people. Wake up. Holy shite. So that's that. We're going to keep an eye on that's going on. I think it is amazing the way the Italian people push them. But like I said, behind closed doors, they're probably saying, don't worry, we're not going to do anything. And don't just sink our ship anyways. I want to talk about, and it's been a long show. It's 2 hours plus, though. This whole put up feast tweet about the Trump-Ukraine war. Fam, the washing the hands of this situation is kind of like, that's it. We're walking away. We were going to do what we can do, but we can't do it. Now it's up to Ukraine and Russia. Still the kind of optics of making it look like it's just these two countries, that we had nothing to do with this, that we can't do anything here. They're not listening to us. We're walking it away. Yeah. Seeing the Western media gawk over Donald Trump with his new plan to say we're going to walk away, but we're going to still provide NATO the weapons they need, right? But, I thought we ran out of weapons. How are we going to get them these weapons? But you have a tweet here. Can you please tell us why it is predictable and what to expect? Because Colonel Wilkerson on Judge Knapp said that there was actually some, what's the word he used? But there was some process, some production, progress moving forward in the Alaska summit is where Donald Trump told Putin behind closed doors, this is what's going to happen, but we don't have the weapons to give them anyways, but we're going to act like we're going to walk away from this and you handle your business over there. But there's weapons still going over to Ukraine. And Donald Trump said something almost inconceivable. The fact that Ukraine could win back territory if they keep at it. I mean, this is crazy. Can you provide a little sunshine to what's going on over here and how you see things?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of nuance here, again, because, for example, Donald Trump always speaks out of both sides of his mouth, right? Donald Trump has literally notoriously said one thing that favors Putin, and then the next day said one thing that favors Ukraine. That's what I mean by this is predictable. This is who Donald Trump is. He's not going to flat out say one thing and be consistent. He's been notoriously inconsistent, but what's been consistent is, I agree with the Colonel, because to a degree, because there's been talks behind the scenes with Russia in terms of economic cooperation in the Arctic, economic cooperation in the Donbass, and the United States is interested in that. Of course, they're never going to look at Russia as an equal. They're never going to look at Russia and say, oh yeah, we're going to respect your sovereignty. We're going to 100% be allies and support you. That's a pipe dream that I think a lot of people, a lot of analysts in Russia, and also a lot of people who believe in Trump think that that's possible. But it's not. I mean, the United States is not interested in actual long-time peace with Russia. They're interested in exploiting the current situation and putting it on somebody else so they don't look like the losers. So yeah, Donald Trump is putting it on Europe. They're 100% Donald Trump is backing away, but he's not, as you said, Pasta, they're fully giving weapons still to NATO to give to Ukraine. So we are the ones that began this whole thing. We are the ones that pushed the Maidan Revolution, right? We are the ones that orchestrated this whole thing. So for Donald Trump to seriously say, oh yeah, I'm just walking away, that's also not true either, because we are the orchestrators of this whole thing. But what he's trying to do is wash his hands off of it and say, all right, well, you handle it, because he's also trying to actually potentially clear himself. And the United States, deep state, is trying to clear themselves off of the loss that has been Ukraine. There is absolutely no way that Ukraine can take back all this land. And Donald Trump was with Macron when he said that. He was with Zelensky. He was giving lip service to the entire EU and all of NATO. That was what he was doing. He wasn't, but when he meets with Putin next time, he's gonna say something entirely different. What I think people need to look at is, that's not being looked at, is the economic mechanisms that are driving this war. For now, Donald Trump and the United States haven't really suffered from this war. They've made a lot of money. The defense industry has made a lot of money. There's been a huge opportunity for that. Europe has gotten screwed, just like Victoria Nuland told us that they would. And they're the ones that are feeling the brunt of this. And by the way, recently Donald Trump also said that Europe needs to stop buying Russian gas the way that they've been doing it. So again, he's speaking out of both sides of his mouth. What I think ultimately is going to happen is, even if there is a deal eventually, I think what we're seeing is Zelensky will get pushed out, that the United States will put it on the EU, even if we are funding it, even if we did orchestrate it. The narrative is now, oh, it's on Europe. It's going to be on Europe. So there is a backing up. There is a backing up of it, but not to the point where we can say Donald Trump is seeking peace. He's seeking to actually make something happen, something tangible happen. I also don't think that this is going to be resolved in a nuclear war with Russia. I just don't see that happening. That may be an unpopular point of view, but I genuinely don't see the United States or Russia doing that in terms of what they would have to lose economically. And I also don't see it with China either. I know there's been a lot of talk of, oh, now this is going to take it into a huge war. Could that happen with NATO? Absolutely. Could it be where NATO gets more involved? Sure. But is the United States really going to tie itself to Ukraine and losing, even though they are tied? The PR wise, it's gonna be like they're sort of backing away. That's just my take on
I
that.
see too these things like this where Russia's digging its heels in, and they're just getting ready for a longer conflict maybe down the road. Who knows how they're going to wrap this up, in Ukraine. But Matt, if you have any thoughts here too as well, because this is something Russia's considering year-round military enlistment. In other words, looking. And also, I have a video too I like to play of Putin talking about his relationship with Iran. So it seems like he seems to be digging his heels in, and there might be, because I do believe that's what's coming, right? I believe a bigger conflict between Israel and Iran dragging us in is still in the works. Obviously, the stuff in Venezuela, we're not going to have the time to talk about today. It just seems like what's in front of us: more war with Iran, more war with Latin America, and primarily Venezuela. Your thoughts, Matt?
Yeah, no, this you guys have been spot on this from the beginning. That's why this isn't a surprise that we're seeing this shift happen, which is really not a shift. It's just the next step in how you keep people aligned in their tribe. When really, when we see Donald Trump speak about this, he sounds more and more like the previous administration. He's been sounding like Joe Biden the entire time. Yeah. I wish the left would wake up to this and say this: the guy that you thought was remember the guy you thought was a Putin puppet and was an agent for Putin this entire time is literally putting out the policy of NATO and the U.S. government's been the entire time. And so the whole thing, it's been you've been fooled. And all you got to do is look at this tweet. Did you guys look at this one? Can I throw this one up?
Please do.
Did a couple days ago. This is Trump. Basically,
we have that there. Yeah.
This is just from a couple days ago. He's saying, after getting to know and fully understand the Ukraine-Russia military and economic situation, and after seeing the economic trouble it is causing Russia, I think Ukraine, with the support of the European Union, is in a position to fight and win all of Ukraine back in its original form. Wait, what? Wasn't that the whole case the Dems made? From the beginning, is that
and kind of slipping in that Russia's suffering financially is the same CIA left-wing talking point too, as well, to set the table to justify. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I mean, he goes on with with time, patience, and the financial support. So again, this to me looks like, not just like Biden. This looks like another way to say the Lindsey Graham approach, down to the last Ukrainian. We can do this, right? We can do this. It's going to take time. It's going to take money, right? Money. It's going to take weapons. Can take all of our support, but we can do this. Ukraine's got our full support to do this. And then, so this is, and so I would say this, if people don't understand by now that what Trump is, the reason he was selected for this job was to continue the military industrial complex, continue the NATO dominance. When you have, like you said about, Putin aligning. Now we know how BRICS is having their summits, the BRICS summits. We're talking about supporting Iran now. This was never going to go away. NATO was never going to go away. U.S. Israel war machine was never going to go away. Trump was just brought in to put a different spin on it and then keep our country, which we are the most gullible in the entire planet because we still want to believe in these camps that we're in where, we have to stop Trump because he's going to ruin the war. We have to be pro-NATO. No, he's not. And I would say to any lefties that still think the Democrats are the lesser two evils, look at this tweet alone and understand this is the policy we've been pushing the entire way. There it is. He just has a different spin on it. He's a little more showy about it. And it's kind of genius that he is blaming it on the EU now because he gets to protect NATO, but then make the EU the fall guy. We doesn't even have to mention NATO, but we are NATO. So he can pretend that we're blaming everything on them to save a little face. But at the end of the day, we've been the bad guys the whole time. He knows this. He's not stupid. He knows about the Nord Stream pipeline. He knows about the Minsk agreements. He knows about all these things. He kind of ran on these things. We know that, right? All the 24-hour thing.
Yeah.
So here we are, and I got to say, give credit. Craig, you guys predicted this from the beginning. This is not a surprise, but we do need to use this as evidence to prove that what we've been saying is that the two-party system is complete theater, and we've always been this war machine. And then you just switch the colors, you switch the face of the operation, and you keep everybody pretending that we have to stop the bad guys and we're the good guys. It's the same old, same old.
Let's play this video really quickly of Putin because my final question to the show, fam, is: do you see a war with Iran coming on the horizon? And we've had different opinions on the show, whether it be Mark Sloboda or a couple other people talking about this. Iran fulfilled the deal. The U.S. tore it up. Trump walked away, yet Europe demanded Iran stay loyal. Why the hell should Iran comply with the deal the West abandoned? If you can go big screen and lower the volume, and I'll read as he is stating it because it's in Russian. Only fam can understand it. Iran has been fulfilling all of its obligations, says Vladimir Putin, under the famous agreement that we just mentioned. That's it. No claims can be made against Iran. They did their part. Then the United States unilaterally decided to withdraw, from this agreement, and then the Europeans continued to demand from Iran that it fulfill its obligations. I'm sorry, but that's just nonsense. Thank you, Vladimir. Iran didn't pull out of the agreement. The U.S. did. Former President Trump made a decision to withdraw from the agreement. And the Europeans were saying, yeah, it's not good what the Americans pulled out, but you Iranians must comply with everything. Why the hell should Iranians do it? Sorry, it sounds a bit rude in Russian. Okay, so, fam, does this kind of solidify an alignment that's a little bit stronger than before when it comes to Russia and Iran? I mean, China is depending a lot on the One Belt Road Initiative with Iran. So if we go to war with Iran, could it spit out of control and have a war that brings Russia into the situation? Your final thoughts?
Actually, I think it's going to disappoint people. I don't think so, because Russia is not going to get involved in Iran. They're not going to get involved in Venezuela. They, like China, very much are against involving themselves militarily. If there is something that breaks out. And they already said from the beginning that they will not interfere if there is a war between the United States and Iran or Israel and Iran. They also have a relationship with Israel right now. In Syria, they are working on maintaining their base there. They have a relationship with Iran. It's a diplomatic relationship, a political relationship. To a degree, there's an economic relationship as well with Tehran, but there isn't that military pact that they have with, say, North Korea. It's just not there, not at the point of like providing defense. So no, I don't think that they're going to get involved, but they are with Iran in terms of like the real politic of it all, like the pragmatic of it. Yeah, Iran pulled out because the U.S. did. So how are you going to even criticize that? This is how he's looking. This is how Vladimir Putin operates in a very, pragmatic way. And also Russia does relate to that because the same type of what's the word I'm looking for? The same type of injustice is also put on Russia when it came to Russia, Ukraine, when it comes to a lot of the negotiations that were made right? And that NATO and the EU didn't follow through. Well, they kind of just put it on Russia. So obviously they're going to stand by that in principle in diplomacy, but they're not going to involve themselves in anything. I think what you know, I do agree with you that there's going to be more between the United States and Iran, but I don't think I think people are still looking at Russia as an ideological state when it actually is more of a pragmatic state. And I would say the same thing about China. I think people still are looking at China and Russia as being more ideological than they actually are. A lot of the things they're doing now are expanding their economic interests, their strategic political influence in the world, and that's kind of what we're seeing. So I think a lot of people are going to be in for a lot of surprises in terms of like what multipolarity is going to look like in the future.
Matt, your thoughts?
No, I hope you're right. I think I'll lean towards it. I'll bet on that. That's a consistent with both their behavior, China and Russia. I would say throwing out with Venezuela, because we hadn't mentioned that so much today, but I really do hope somebody can step up for Venezuela. It would be nice to see that support because they're going to need it. We're definitely we're always on the wrong side of everything. And we did see one more of note. We did see a massive meeting that was called by Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, calling a meeting with some military people that we've never seen at this level. So we don't know what that's going to be about. But I'm thinking Iran might be something on the table right now. So we'll see what happens.
And
next.
he called them in, Matt, just to let them know who the boss is. The ex-Fox News analyst. The Department of War, as they like to say it.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's going to be interesting to see what's going on. I think you'll see a lot more back behind the scenes military sales, right, of weapons that Iran might need. But Iran's got the whole thing figured out. They understand their terrain. If you think that Hamas was dug deep, forget about it. Iran is really, really deep with a huge arsenal all over the country. Topographically, if you look at that map, you're not going to take Iran. So the only thing you can do is try to nuke the place out, but that's going to be ridiculous. But who knows what Israel will try. Jamie, do we have any Rumble rants or anything we have to get to before we get out of here? It's been a 2.5-hour show, guys. I want to thank you all for joining today. Matt Weinglass, Homeless Left, Fiorella, Isabel, Pasta, Jardula, a.k.a. Craig, with Jamie Cheese Slice on the ones and twos. I don't see anything there, so that's it for today. You guys got any announcements you want to make?
No, just we're back on Homeless Left's coming back Tuesdays and Thursdays, noon Pacific, starting next week. So we're excited to be back. And I just want to say, appreciated the conversation today, the debate, sharing ideas. It was very important to do that, and it's very important we do that all the time when we need to. And I think it definitely gave people stuff to think about that we're watching. So it's very good that we do this. So I appreciate it from both of you.
Yeah, and we don't always agree on everything. I mean, I think this is one of the first times we're not in alignment. But I think it's interesting to see that for a lot of people. So yeah, it's good that it was discussed in the way that it was discussed. So props to that. I will be back next week. Hopefully we'll be back more often. We were all very busy the last few weeks. So I will continue doing a Critical Perspective. I also did the show with BetBeat Media. I don't know if you guys talked about or know who they are, guys, but they're two guys, Kareem and Peter. They do a lot of like foreign policy stuff. So we talked about BRICS and we talked about China and Russia and their role. So a lot of things to watch on that. It's also shared on my Substack. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Cool. We love you too, Friendly Brilliant. That's it for today, guys. Thank you so much. What's up, Les Al? You're here. Thanks for joining in. Gabrielle Freedom, all you guys who watch the show. Fred Edward, we love you. Zootzilla. So many great people here today. Anna Ringwald, old school. We do appreciate your love. Gonzo Johnny, Driving Me, Macy, and Shelly, and all the other people who help out the show, make it what it is. Thank you so much. God bless. Remember, love each other. Don't fight with your neighbor. It's those upstairs who are calling the shots. We're out of here. Truth time. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye again. It's like a
That's curtain.
Latino
Bye,
party.
bye, Jamie.
It's like yeah. Italians and
this out.
Latinos, same bye for the next 20 minutes. You're like, bye. Okay, bye. Bye again. All right.
Matt,
I'll see you
Jamie,
later.
get us out.
Is he doing it?
We
Oh.
lost you.